morning. This is January the 5th, 2019, hearing for Executive Appointments Committee. I'm Councilman Stokes and Chairman of this committee. Also in attendance to my far left is the Vice Chair's Committee, Councilman, from the 8th District. Also part of this Executive Appointments Committee is Councilwoman Clark from the 14th District.
Thank you.
Also Councilman Cohen from the 1st District.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
To my far right is Councilman Costello from the 11th District.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
To his right is Councilwoman Middleton from the 6th District. To her right is Councilman Reisinger from the 10th. To Councilman Burnett's far left is Councilwoman Sneed from the 13th. To her left is Councilman Henry from the 4th Council District. Also, Councilman Bullock from the 9th District.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Councilman Scott from the 2nd, he's walking in now. Also, President of the City Council, Bernard Jack Young. Also from the President's office is Michael Huber, Liam Davis, and Rebecca Simmons, City Council Attorney. And Karen Stokes from the Mayor's office. And my committee staff person to my right is Marguerite Kern. Also, the City Solicitor Andre Davis is also here. The purpose of today's hearing is to provide the citizens in Baltimore an opportunity to address Executive Appointments Committee as we prepare to vet the mayor's nominee for Police Commissioner. As many of you know, Chief Fitzgerald will not attend today's hearing in order to be with his family. Monday's hearing has been postponed. As soon as we can, we will announce a rescheduled date for the hearing. We have allowed a large chunk of time to today's hearing, but it will still be important that we abide by certain ground rules in order to ensure that we hear from everyone who has come to offer testimony. If you sign up to testify, I will call your name in the order that you signed in. I will call the first 5 names at a time to give the people a chance to come in from the overflow rooms. If I call your name, please form a line and send us out. Okay. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. The Office of Council Services will be keeping time. We will notify you when you have 30 seconds remaining and when your time has expired. I want to really say this. Please be respectful of your fellow citizens and conclude your remarks when your time has expired. In the spirit of mutual respect, I'm asking everyone to respect one another's opinion. We will not always agree, but we shall all have a chance to say our piece. In the spirit, we will not tolerate multiple disruptions. I'm going to say it again. We will not tolerate multiple disruptions. If anyone is disruptive, I will ask them to leave the hearing. If necessary, I will recess the hearing in order to have you removed. All questions and concerns are to be directed to the committee council members only. All we are doing today is listening to the community. Meetings of the Executive Appointments Committee are open to the public for the duration of the meeting. Persons attending must behave in an order, manner that are subject to removal. The hearing room must be vacated at the conclusion of the meeting. Failure to comply may result in a charge of trespassing. Well, I just want to open this up by asking. President Young, would you like to give some opening remarks?
Thank you, Chairman Stokes. Good morning to everyone. First of all, I want to thank all of you for coming out this morning. We want to hear exactly what you have to say. Our staff is here. They will be taking notes. We will not be responding to any questions. And when we did our trip to Fort Worth, a lot of you have sent us questions to ask, and we did all of those. We asked no questions. Well, I asked no questions of my own all the questions that I asked was from the ones that we got via text and email. So I just want to thank everybody for coming and hoping that we have an orderly meeting where everyone will reiterate what the council and say we respect everybody's comments and we can get this hearing going in a smooth and professional manner. Again, thank you all for coming this morning because your input is very valuable to all of us. Thank you. This hearing is televised.
Okay.
And just to let you know that the hearing is being televised, so we will be able to capture most of the questions that you all is asking, and we also are writing down questions as well. Thank you.
I just want to mention that Councilman Schleifer is not here from the 5th District because of his religious beliefs, so I wanted to share that with you. So I will be calling the next 5 persons to speak, and I need you to line up right in front of that gentleman right here near the brass pole. So the first 5 will be Mark Cannon. The next will be Mike Jensen, Travis Deschute, Matt Hood, and James Morant. Mr. Cannon, you can step up to the mic. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year to everybody. I'm glad we getting a chance, to come in and talk about this. It's something that's personal to me. The reason that I'm so much for a homegrown commissioner is because the last time the murders was up under 200 was in 2011 when we had a homegrown commissioner and we had real community policing, the police out, and being an integral part of the community, and things like that. That changed in 2015 when they drugged the young man to the wagon, and we know what happened. Lieutenant Rice didn't say, troops, if you see this, you call the medics, and then everybody's covered. That didn't happen. The state's attorney charged the officers, and the retaliation was, and I've been in my neighborhood 40-something years. A lot of the officers took that opportunity to step back or whatever you call it. I've seen it in my neighborhood, still see it a lot. But that was the last time the murder was up under 200. Darryl D'Souza, like I told the mayor when we talked, I believe he was the right person for this job because not only was he homegrown, but I saw the change in my community. I saw police interacting with, again, positively. He was getting rid of folk that didn't need to be in the police department. The gun trace task force, those 6 young men, I was so pissed off about that you would have 6 young men that could have been getting guns off the street, that could have been mentoring these young people. Mr. Cohen, he used to be the head of Baltimore intersection, a youth group, that we got 83,000 young people. We got 50 or 60,000 adults hooked on something like I was 29 years ago. And these young people are out here. A lot of them pray. My son was robbed at gunpoint last year at Old Town Mall in broad daylight for his phone. Coming from the wreck at NAF where those 2 young men were shot the other day in broad daylight at 11:30 in the daytime. They should have been in school, gun at the scene. So, what does that mean? So we need stabilization, at the police department. The police have to win our trust back. And I think a homegrown commissioner, woman, man, Mr. LaTanya Lewis, lieutenant, I talked to her. Every officer that I hear and talk to, community policing.
Thank you. Also, we joined by Councilman Pinkett from the 7th District. You can state your name, sir.
Mike Jensen, Jenson. I'd like to start off by saying Hallelujah. If we've ever needed the Lord, we surely need him now. I preach in the heart of the city, Baltimore and Monroe. When someone's talking to you, you need to know who you're talking to, at least a little something about them. Been here about 70 years, born and raised in Baltimore. The streets raised me back in the 40s. I probably have more relatives in Baltimore City than anybody in here. Grandchildren, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, nieces, nephews. Paid quite a few taxes, own a little bit of property, own the house that I was born in. I got robbed before 10 in the morning in Baltimore City. But what I want to ask everyone is, why do we have to continue to get someone from outside to come in? And I had a radio show. I called it Chatting with the Chaplain. And my saying was, I'm misunderstood, but I understand. I was around with Palmerlo, Battaglia, Robinson, all the commissioners, and I know there's a couple of leaders out here in Baltimore that can do this job. So not only for the police commissioner, but look like every top position, education and whatever else is going on, we have to get someone from outside. I'm ashamed of that. My heart hurts. And I would pray that you would allow the grassroots people, the citizens of Baltimore, to be a part of helping correct our problem. I know the players, and I know the ones that aren't playing out there. Used to be the boxer promoter here years ago with Matt Lewis, Pat Wade. So I'm just saying that I know the guys. We have to come together. A house divided will not stand. To God be the glory.
Thank you. Next speaker is Matt Hood.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Hood. I've just come to give a couple of thoughts about Commissioner nominee Fitzgerald. One, I think he's inappropriate for Baltimore City because thus far he's done nothing but disrespect the city and its leadership. For example, Zeke Cohen asked for a resume. His response, according to Mr. Cohen, who I believe, was file a FOIA. I mean, that's just appalling, and you can't have that level of non-transparency in Baltimore City Police Department these days. And two, it's just going to feed into Baltimore City Police Department's problems with the public. Baltimore City Police Department are habitually disrespectful to city residents outside of Roland Park or, non-white residents. Take, for example, your own Councilman Dorsey. In April 2018, Dorsey tweeted out the fact that he had been hit by a car, he had the license plate, model number, and description of the driver, and that city police did nothing. Now, if Baltimore City Police won't investigate an assault against the, was it vice chair of the Public Safety Committee, what chance do regular citizens like myself or members of the public like myself have of getting, service? Also, as noted by the Baltimore Sun, he's constantly fudging this resume. Oh, I started the biggest camera program in Texas. Then you find out that's not true. If he's going to come and lie to the public like this before he even has the job, what do you think he's going to do when he is, safely ensconced in the commissioner's office? And the only person he really has to answer to that point is our mayor. Do you think his behavior is going to improve? Do you think he's going to become more respectful of the city and its residents? Or do you think he's just going to sit there, do what he has to do to keep the job until he can springboard into, say, a federal government position? And there's all sorts of problems with the department he has no expertise with. To give you an example, anybody ever used the Baltimore City Police Department app? Download it. It's broke. It is fundamentally broke. You can't use it. I discussed this with Internal Affairs back in May of last year, 7 months ago. And you know what? She promised me to fix it. Oh, she promised me she would fix it, and she'd be right on it. And 7 months later, I just checked, it's still broke. And I don't know how much you guys appropriated for that app, but literally, it doesn't work. Internal Affairs appears to be just as chaotic as it was, back in 29 when people like Rayham were charged with crimes, and they said, oh, he didn't do anything wrong. And so how's he going to fix this? He's like, well, he tells Dorsey, well, Google me. I'm like, well, I Googled him, and, there's no evidence he has expertise to fix any of these city problems. I don't know why Ms. Pugh picked him. She won't tell us. But again, like I said, he's not fit for Baltimore simply because he has no respect for the city and many of its elected leaders. I've said my piece. I'll take any questions.
Thank you.
Well,
Our next speaker is Travis Deschute.
Hi, my name is Travis Ducote. I'm a resident of Highlandtown. First of all, I just want to get right off the bat my sentiment, which is those of you who purport to represent your constituency and are here today to listen, which I really appreciate you doing, should absolutely unequivocally reject Joel Fitzgerald as the next commissioner of the Baltimore City Police. He has a credibility issue. I read the entire, I think it was 247-page report from Fort Worth, which I do appreciate being made public as soon as it was transcribed. There were numerous issues with his credibility. Most of the programs for which he took credit were, in fact, as the previous speaker mentioned, implemented under other regimes, including the regime of a person who was removed explicitly for being racist. So that was the bar he had to clear. During his tenure, he was known to discipline African-American officers at an outsized rate proportionate to their representation within the Fort Worth Police Department. And additionally, to rubber stamp, which is what has happened in the past with commissioner candidates, for your group to rubber stamp this person would be rewarding bad behavior on the part of a certain executive office, which indicated to the public that the process of choosing a new commissioner would be public. It was not. It is my personal belief that the Baltimore City Police have an inherent corruption within them and that they are not redeemable by an internal actor. I would express to the council that it should be known that there is, as far as I know, no rule that the new police commissioner must be a police officer. And I highly recommend, instead of looking outward to far-flung police departments in states thousands of miles away for individuals with deep, deep credibility issues, that we instead would look to local civilian leadership. This is a management issue. We have overtime abuse. We have lack of accountability. I've worked in both the private and public sector, and in the private and public sector, accountability is key to success. And what we have now is a failing institution. In my last 45 seconds, I would like to simply state that as the police exist currently, myself and my neighbors do not feel we can safely call them without leading to the death of the individual upon whom we're calling the police. We only call them for traffic incidents. And under Joel Fitzgerald, that culture would not change, and no indication has been given by Mr. Fitzgerald or the council people who have spoken with him privately that he would institute any change in that culture. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is James Morant.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to make comments. I have more detailed comments, which I will leave with the committee. But my name is James C. Morant. I'm a 70-year resident of Baltimore City, having been born in East Baltimore, a neighborhood that used to surround Johns Hopkins Hospital and around the corner from the old Eastern District Police Station. I'm also a person that's been privileged to travel around the world in my job and for vocal performances. Baltimore was and is a community worth the struggle. In my estimation, this police commissioner selection is one of the most consequential positions in this city. And I must say, I've walked the streets of Beijing, China, Santiago, Chile, Harare, Zimbabwe, and New York, Las Vegas, et cetera, places large and small. And I have felt safer in those cities than I do in Baltimore. From its criminal elements, or more importantly, from our own Baltimore police force, my confidence has been shaken. The charm of Charm City has crumbled in a spectacular manner. Why should I have feelings of dread when thinking about my safety and security in Baltimore? I want a commissioner to make me feel by word and deed that Bel Air Edison is just as important as Roland Park, or that Middle East Baltimore has the same value as Upper Park Heights. All I ever really wanted was for the police department to protect and serve. It does not currently do this in my estimation, at least for all parts of the city. It's a failure that causes flight to other jurisdictions and causes reluctance for companies and their families to expand or relocate here. What inducements can a major company offer to its employees when they know that there is unstable senior leadership, rampant criminality, inability to solve problems, and a national reputation for intractability at many levels? So this is what I want. I want a commissioner that has the necessary background experience and toolkit of ideas and strategies to identify and address police-related issues. I want for Mr. Fitzgerald or any candidate to help us usher in a renewed spirit of Baltimore. At a minimum, I want stability. Mr. Fitzgerald seems to have a reputation for job hopping. I want responsiveness. When there's an emergency in my community, I don't want to be placed on hold for a 911 call or to have the police union conduct an ad hoc police strike in retaliation for their differences with city leadership. I want fiscal acumen. Among Baltimore's highest paid employees are policemen who are able to draw down large salaries because of overtime. I want a commissioner who manages his budget in a way that reduces the needs for excessive overtime and who identifies needs at the front end rather than at critical times of shortages. I want partnerships. The police commissioner must be a collaborator. He must be able to identify stakeholders and create opportunities for partnering with them to solve community problems.
Thank you, Mr. Morant.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call the next 5 names, and you can line up also. Karen Berman. Okay. Tawanda Jones. J.C. Falk. Bill Blyce. And J. Wendell Gordon. Ms. Karen, you can pull a mic down.
Good morning, everyone.
Step a little further.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to
Excuse
speak
me,
about the commissioner.
before you start, could you make sure I'm, the order that I called everybody in that order, because we making sure. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Berman. I'm here to speak about the crimes that's going on in Baltimore City. We need a strong commissioner. We need more foot patrol on police. Police need to get out their car and start doing foot patrol. That will make a big difference. All they do is drive around in their cars. We need a commissioner that's going to revamp the police department. And I think foot patrol is a start, and that's what we need. We need more foot patrol. Police got to get out their cars and see what's going on. All they do is drive around. You can't do anything by driving around. We need more foot patrol. And it all started with who, Wayne? The lady, my husband I'm addressing? Viola White. Are y'all familiar with her? 1939, Viola White. She didn't have a gun. She didn't have anything. She did foot patrol, and she made a big difference in the community. Look up Viola White. She was excellent. No guns, no nothing. Foot patrol made a big difference in the community. And another thing, we need citizens to participate in the community. We need more participation with citizens. We need the police to interact with the community to make a difference. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Ms. Tawanda Jones.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for hearing us and taking our input, and I hope you guys take us serious, because as I always say, I'm sick of the Doug and Pony show. In case y'all don't know who I am, my brother Tyrone West was brutally executed right here in the city, and for 284 weeks, 1,991 days. Me and my family of protesters have been advocating on behalf, not just on behalf of my brother Tyrone, but on behalf of all the victims of police brutality and murder. We know that police brutality is real. We know that the homicide rates are out of control. A wise man once said that when you repeat the same things over again, it's called insanity. When are we going to wake up and realize what do we need? And it's easy. We need people to hold people accountable. And bringing somebody like him from out of town is utterly ridiculous. And knowing his track record, and for me to see a video of a lady named Jacqueline who basically was abused, her family, her child, and the way he handled that, and he supported the officer involved, and also the Caucasian man who basically brutalized his family, choked the baby out, and that was justifiable. When is enough enough? And then to look at what's going on, I'm glad the city solicitor, Andre Davis, is here because I was declined meetings with him. You know, I just wanted to sit down and talk because they act like he is the Wizard of Oz. You know, every time when I went to go meet with the mayor, oh, I gotta go check in with him. Well, I want to check in with him because at the end of the day, when are y'all going to stop out trying to silence our voice? Whenever you silence us, forced silence is condoning police violence. That's why I'm diligently working with the ACLU to uplift these gag orders. My voice cannot be paid or bought. Be clear on that. Enough is enough, and we need to realize that. Right now, there is no justice. It's just us. We're more than hashtags and body bags. We're more than being 6 feet in the dirt and pictures and buttons on T-shirts. Our lives matter. And anybody that's not doing nothing, all y'all need to be charged with obstructions to attain of justice. All of y'all need to be charged because at the end of the day, our lives matter. And I know I got 30 seconds, and I want to say this on my last 30 seconds. Everybody want to talk about the community violence, and we need to talk about it. But I won't dare call it black on black crime. I want to talk about blue on black crime. Blue on black crime is what I want to talk about. If y'all bring that man in, we're gonna get all y'all out. Thank y'all. Have a blessed one.
J.C. Falk, Circles of Voices. I've been in Baltimore for 10 years, have seen 2 dead bodies, saw a shootout just last week, and it's likely that the people who were shot in that car are now dead. The only dead bodies that I've seen outside of funerals have happened since 2015 here in Baltimore. The BPD has backed away from the mothers, children, and fathers of Baltimore. They retreated because we held them accountable for the murder of Freddie Gray. There is no honor in this. Most of you were here during the uprising. Are you proud? This cannot be what you imagine when taking on this job. No one decides to be a cop, a city council member, or a mayor when they grow up for things to turn out like this, except for the bad guys. We have lots of them here. Show us that the majority of this body can hold the line for us. Give us reason to trust you. Listen to the people. We are what this is all about. None of you individually or as a body know this city better than us. We see and feel the violence every day. I ask you to slow down a little bit, to take the time needed to have a BPD commissioner that respects the rights of the people, quote, unquote. Folks, I am one of the middle-income people that you are trying to attract to this city. Sorry for a second, I'm gonna take a second. I've been here for 10 years, y'all, and it has done nothing but gotten worse. It's gotten worse. Since 2015. So I'm one of the middle income people that you want here. I've been on the ground as an activist in this city since the death of Freddie Gray. We've been busting our chops to try to make this city better, and it doesn't get better. I hold myself accountable for that on one level, always feeling like I need to be doing something else. But we elected y'all to get a job done that's not getting done. It's not getting done. So I want you to know that we will never be happy with the Freddie Gray verdict. If you take this and you root it back, it's the Freddie Gray verdict and everything that happened before Freddie Gray that has us here in the first place. Do something about that. I will never be happy with that Tyrone West was murdered by Baltimore Police Department. 12 to 15 cops killed this guy on the street, no weapons, nothing, and no one goes to jail or is even sanctioned in any way because they've done that. Why should we believe in you all if you can't correct the problems of this city? We put you here to correct it. Correct it. We will work with you, but work with us. Last thing. The most important voices in this room are our voices, not yours.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Can we have a copy of your remarks, sir? Yes. Can we have a copy?
Mr. Bill Blyce.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, audience members. Good morning. In the United States today, 1 out of 3 people who are killed by the police. 1 out of 3 people are killed by a stranger. Sorry, I didn't get the statistic right. In the United States, 1 out of 3 people who are killed by a stranger are killed by police. Now, as a teacher in the city for many years, I taught 3 of the cousins of Tyrone West, who was brutally murdered by the police in July of 2013. And I'm speaking today against the confirmation of this new police commissioner, and I'm speaking against the system that has to go, system of capitalism. Now, Frederick Douglass once said that a man can carve out his circumstances, but the circumstances also carve out the man. So let's look at Fitzgerald's circumstances in Fort Worth and see what kind of man he was. There was a cop in Fort Worth named William Martin. William Martin was called to a dispute between 2 neighbors. He ends up escalating the dispute. He used abusive language. He drew his taser. He used excessive force. And he conducted himself in a racist way. He arrested the mother and he arrested 2 daughters. And residents, once they saw the video of what he had done, were outraged, rightfully outraged, and held a large protest on the courtroom steps. And this was during the time that Fitzgerald was the commissioner. So how did he conduct himself under those circumstances? It was a very important moment in his career. So what did he do? He gave the cop a slap on the wrist, 2 weeks without pay. But he saved his main disciplinary action for 2 high-level police officials, 2 commanders, who made the decision to release the video. And he demoted them, a much more serious consequence than 2 weeks without pay. This is the character of the man that's being considered to be police commissioner in Baltimore City. And if he comes in here, I have no doubt that the history of racist brutality by the police department will continue unabated. Now, in the last 3 years in Baltimore City, just to give you a sense of how racism continues in spite of the Justice Department and so on, the consent decree, in the last 3 years, even though drug use is roughly equal among all sections of the population, 96% of the people who have been arrested for marijuana possession are black. This is what's going on still today. Fitzgerald, with the record that he has, is not going to change this situation. He's got to go. The system of capitalism that needs racism's got to go. And it would be a real travesty of justice if this body confirms the appointment of Fitzgerald as police commissioner.
Thank you. J. Wendell Gordon. Not here, okay. I'm gonna name the next 5 speakers. Dan Hellenbach, Charlene Foster, Dave Malilky, I can't see the spelling. Gordon McGuire and William Washington. He is, so. Could you state your name also? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I am Dan Hellerback, a citizen of Baltimore, city schools employee, father, member of the West Coalition. I'm here today to talk about you and the mayor. That Commissioner Fitzgerald was whisked in by Mayor Pugh, that our council members had to go to Fort Worth to interview community members, and only a select group of community members are here are going to be able to meet and talk to our potential commissioner, tells us something. Although I'm quite sure that today's hearing is merely an empty gesture, because those here who are in power have refused to heed the requests, pleas, warnings, and observations of the citizens of this city, I still feel the need to call out those in power in hopes that one day they will live up to their promises to serve our city. We are here supposedly to help leverage the city council into making sure some decision about confirming the appointment of a police commissioner. It seems that that decision could be made, or already has been made, regardless of any input we may have. History tells us so. And truly, what difference does it make for any potential police commissioner to lead a force that has carte blanche when it comes to oversight or accountability? When I was a kid growing up in New York, my father would read the newspaper religiously every night, starting with the business section. I asked him one day why that was so. He said, "Son, that is the news. Follow the money." That's stuck with me ever since. And the one thing truly the mayor and the city council have the power to do to change in this city is the budget. The graft and "oh boy, you rub my hands, I'll rub your system" in the police department is so overt that it is jaw-dropping, spit-in-your-face, mind-blowing experience that you might think that you were imagining it was even possible. All this in clear sight of the members you see in front of you and those who have chosen to hide behind closed doors. Patrol officers, commanders, lieutenants, and desk duty bureaucrats are making overtime salaries alone that eclipse the salary of this city's mayor, including members of the Gun Trace Task Force. Many of those with overbloated incomes living in mansions in our counties. The mayor and city council has passed every budget request of the police, including all overtime requests, which have increased every year under this administration. In one of the interviews I read from council's investigation of the quality of Commissioner Fitzgerald, it said he was a master manipulator, saying one thing and doing another. Unfortunately, he would fit right into Baltimore.
Mr. Hellerback, you
Mayor
had to
Pugh
wrap
has
it up.
waffled, caved in, and lied without hesitation. Our council president stood up at a rally when we were in the last school budget crisis and promised to shift $10 million to the police, from police overtime to the school budget. This has never happened. In fact, that year, $17 million was added to the
Dan, you had
budget
to wrap it
for
up. We have
overtime
other
pay.
speakers, sir.
The citizens, the particularly poor and black citizens of Baltimore, have been the victims of an uncaring and reckless police force for years. Rough rides, officers looking the other way, shakedowns, glad ham, the same
Sir,
officers
you're gonna have
doing
to
the
wrap
same
that up.
corrupt
We have
things,
other speakers.
jump out boys, and such more are common practice. Please, let me just add what I'm asking for today. I'm asking today, and some things that you can do, not only in the budget, is to end gag orders that silence victims and continue the cycle that condones police violence. Give teeth and true power to the Civilian Review Board, fight to end the Officers' Bill of Rights, which basically a shield from keeping officers from being held accountable in our city. Thank you very much.
I just want to mention one thing. We have a lot of people here who want to speak, and be conscious of other people that have something to say. So when I be polite and ask you, wrap it up. I expect you to do that. Thank you. Councilman Costello? I said we have other persons that want to speak. We need to be conscious of people that want to speak also. Everybody get 3 minutes. I think we should, I'm going to make sure we abide by that.
You ready for me?
Could you state your name?
Sure. My name is Charlene Rock Foster. I'm a resident, have been a resident in Baltimore City for a total of 29 years. I have supported nonprofit organizations and movements such as Baltimore Ceasefire, Not Without Black Women, West Wednesday Coalition, and also the 300 Men. So I consider myself someone who is invested in Baltimore and love Baltimore. So I am saying this, I am sick and tired of what I have seen in the past, let's say, 5 years in terms of how governing is working in Baltimore City, and in terms of how police is set up in the system, how policing is done in the city. And most importantly, I find it outrageous that we are trying to confirm or say that we're going to get someone from another state with a record like Joel Fitzgerald still trying to bring our city together. That's not going to work. That hasn't worked, the truth be told, because you had Anthony Batts from 2012 and 2015. 2015, you had the riots, or uprising, as I call it. And then we saw our numbers spiked up to 300 in terms of murders. And then at the same time, you did a DOJ report. And then you got a monitoring team. And then you had corruption that's going on within the department, to include the gun trace task force, all of that coming out. And then you have to take a trip to Fort Worth to find out about this individual that you're trying to bring on board, this city is trying to bring on board. Baltimore deserves better. Baltimore deserves better. Now, the people that spoke before me, they said everything I wanted to say, so I can't reiterate, but I'm gonna tell you this. I'm sick and tired. We deserve better. As a taxpayer, as someone who owns a home, I put good money into the city. I really do. Everybody else in here does too. So to see what we're seeing is terrible. And it does not reflect leadership, and it definitely does not reflect excellence. And for us to be majority African American, we could do better. We could do a lot better than what we're doing. And I know I got 30 seconds, so I'm gonna say this. I want everyone in here who call themselves a leader to search within and go harder on dismantling systems that keep us going backwards and not going forward. Because again, if we see 300 murders from 2015 to 2018, and then we're hearing about police misconduct, we're not doing better. We're going backwards, we're regressing, and we need to move forward. That's all.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dave Heilker, and I'm a mostly lifelong city resident. I lived in the county for 10 years, but we won't talk about that. I'm sorry. My name is Dave. I'm from the city. I've lived here for most of my life. I would like to thank the ladies and gentlemen of City Council for being here to hear our concerns. It's a Saturday. I understand that that's a lot to ask. And I understand what power you guys do have over the Baltimore Police Department. I understand that the state regulates most of that, but the power that you guys absolutely have is to not confirm this guy. There's this expectation because of a tough job market that people are gonna lie on their resume. And at Burger King or JCPenney, when someone lies on their resume, you don't get mustard on your Whopper, or you like learn that walking 10 miles in Sperry topsiders is probably not the best plan. At the Baltimore Police Department, when they're the commissioner and you lie on your resume, people, usually black and brown and poor people, die. As citizens of Baltimore, we must demand scrutiny from the men and women who we elect to appoint and confirm people we have to trust with life and death. So what can we ask Joel Fitzgerald in order to find out whether he's the best fit for the job? As the gentleman who came before me said, 1 out of 3 Americans killed by a stranger are killed by police officers. The problem that I have with that statement, when I did some quick research to find out that it's true, is not that it's police officers killing them, it's that the police officers are strangers. In a city where we have issues with trust between communities and police, we need a police commissioner who's going to make sure that the people who are policing us are people we know. Okay, and that starts with getting city residents to be police officers. That starts with increasing trust and like decreasing the opacity of the police department. How is he going to improve that transparency and that connectedness and that community policing? Why does Joel Fitzgerald or the city council think that we need an outside hire instead of someone familiar with Baltimore's unique challenges? Why does Mr. Fitzgerald believe that he can create meaningful improvements in community relations with police if he doesn't acknowledge that there is a lack of trust in the first place? Mr. Fitzgerald has never presided over a municipality with more than 100 homicides in a year. How will he substantially lower homicides when he has no record of lowering homicides in any of the municipalities he has presided over? Mr. Fitzgerald has, on Fox News, said that a visit from President Trump would instill pride in our country. Why is Mr. Fitzgerald proud of President Donald Trump? We can learn a lot from what Mr. Fitzgerald's resume says. We learn that there's a lot to learn. I would implore you guys to learn that for us. Everyone here is concerned, and I think that we can do better, and we deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, familiar faces. My name is Gloyd Levi McGuire.
Can you lift the mic up, sir? Thank you.
Gloyd Levi McGuire. I'm 78 years old. I was born in Sandtown, Winchester, in the 1300 block of Fremont Riggs Avenue, so a lot of people know. Plus, I've been all over the city. I lived all over the city, and I've been a community person ever since about 1958 up until the present, because where I live at now, I'm active in 2 organizations, the Hal Park Activity Association, and I was active in the Civic Association. So I've seen and heard a lot of what goes on in the city. Our city is bleeding. We know it's bleeding, and I don't want to be redundant over what's going on. But when Fitzgerald come in, because he'll have a ton of eyes watching him, and hopefully that he can straighten out a lot of issues. But my concern is, because I know for a fact in Baltimore City, we got some good fine police here in Baltimore City, but we beyond that now. So if we get him in and eyes watching him, and hopefully, he can do what we always try to do in my community. We try to build up a relationship. For years, we've been building up a relationship, but what's been happening, they kept switching them around, taking them out. A lot of elderly people wanted to come out. Before, they was coming out, meeting, greeting, share information with the police, with us, as to who's doing the wrong things. But now that I'm hearing all this bad stuff is coming out from the police department, now people don't want to come out. So we let them know to get maybe a block watching number. If you call, use that number. Because before that, they was coming out, shining a light at the door, knocking on the door, did you call the police? And they got frightened that way. Because the community I'm in is a senior community, and they closely knit, and they don't come out and vote now, but they will sign petitions and everything. So hopefully when the new commissioner come in, he can on out the bad ones. And my way of on out the bad ones is when they start putting the police back in our community, we build a relationship with them again. We would know whether or not they good or bad, So that would be one way, and other communities as well. So we can on out the good ones and the bad ones, because there is still some bad ones there. And hopefully now people inside know, because you've been there for 20, 30, 40 years, you know who's good and who's bad. So ain't no such thing as, unless you clean house, So that's going to be my take now. If they can just clean house and Fitzgerald, because nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. None of us. My favorite saying is, we all live in a glass house. You know, so the only thing we got to do is give people a chance and an opportunity to do the right thing. So hopefully, when he comes, we can open arms and support him as much as we can. And you guys still can keep an eye on it. And I think things are going to flow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good morning. My name is William Washington. I live in Northwest Baltimore in the East Arlington neighborhood. And so far, a lot of the speakers have addressed community concerns. What I'd like to do, with all due respect, is to offer you some free advice as far as the politics of this candidacy. From some of the statements that this candidate has given to this council on their trip down to Fort Worth, Texas, some of the statements he made suggest that he's dangerously clueless as to the situation on the ground here. He was talking about organizing a Back the Blue rally in Baltimore after the riot, after the DOJ findings, and after Gun Trace Task Force. And now there's an officer, Officer Philippou, who was involved in the Keith Davis shooting. She's a straight up gangster. She was bringing in carloads of narcotics from New York. Okay? No idea of what is going on. Okay? And frankly, that's on the mayor. She owns this. In fact, she hasn't given anybody, even this council, any kind of input on this decision until after the fact. In fact, they denied for a month that he was a candidate when the news got out that he was being he was a finalist. Okay? So my question is, why take ownership? Why put yourself out there on a decision you had no input on until it was already made? Just reject this. Just reject it. And given, what the findings on his resume, he's probably done anyway. Any support at this point, frankly, you're risking, putting yourself out there for somebody, for a candidacy that's DOA. So my suggestion is, okay, if after this candidate is done, start a process where public input plays a role so that the community has buy-in, so that they have a stake in that commissioner. Because as things have been now, you've gotten it wrong so many ways, so many times, frankly, you have no other choice. Okay, thank you for your time.
The next five: Ralph Johnson, Beth Hawks, Greta Willis, Sergio Espana, and Gretchen, I can't look like Tomb.
Good morning, everyone. I'm not really going to say a lot.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Ralph E. Johnson, Jr. And it's a lot to me, and I have a lot of respect for you all, no disrespect, but it seems like it's a lot of political rambling going on, and I think we need to expedite this situation because a lot of people out there are dying. And the only way that we're going to heal our city is that we really have to heal the police department. And I thank you for your form that you've given Mr. Stokes, and keep up the good work, but we really need to expedite this situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Beth Hawks. Beth Hawks? Okay. Gretchen, Greta Willis.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Greta Carter Willis. Good morning. My name is Greta Carter Willis. I am the mother of Kevin L. Cooper. My son was a 14-year-old whose life was taken on August the 12th of 2006 by a Baltimore City police officer unjustly. Unfortunately for this city, we have had 10 police commissioners that this council, may you have been appointed at that time or during this time, have appointed these people into positions that they are not a good fit for the citizens of Baltimore. You already know from your travel to Texas regarding the background of Mr. Fitzgerald, and you set before us today with whatever's on your mind of this appointment. But I wish you would really search within your hearts, because our city is dying, our city is bleeding, our city is hurting. We don't need another person to come into our city with corruption already following them. Our children's life is at stake. We are hurting. Mothers are hurting. Fathers are hurting. If you truly want to heal and bring about a cohesiveness within this city, you would really take a good look and search those candidates that you bring forth. We need integrity. We need those who's going to stand for police accountability. We need a department that will be torn down from the top to the bottom, because it has not been. I've been standing since 2006, making a difference after the death of my son, because I will not let the city of Baltimore sweep my son's name under the rug. I will continue to work with the public. I will continue to work with the youth in the city of Baltimore to transform our youth into champions, and I expect you as a council to do the same when you're choosing those who are leaders. Our department is only as good as its leader, and so far you have not brought a good fit into Baltimore City. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for giving us the time to share our concerns with this committee and with our fellow residents. On August 2017,
What's your name, sir?
Oh, sorry, Sergio Spania. Yep.
Thank you.
On August 2017, the Fort Worth City Council created a Race and Culture Task Force. This body was created as a direct response to instances of police abuse and public mistrust starting from December 2016, when, as has already been discussed, the white Fort Worth police officer arrested and physically assaulted Jacqueline Craig and her daughters, and after they reported that a white neighbor was choking their 7-year-old son. Many of us have seen the video when it went viral. Jacqueline and her daughter were then taken to jail by the officer and have actually continued to face harassment, including being told by Fitzgerald himself that they were not welcome to participate in public forums related to the incident. Ms. Craig is quoted as saying as such in the 216-page report that President Young released earlier last week. This was not the police officer's first racially charged incident, and the white neighbor had to pay a $600 fine for choking her child. For more than a year, the Race and Culture Task Force held a series of public meetings across Fort Worth to ascertain the public's concerns and lift up effective recommendations to address these issues and continue to strengthen public trust in police effectiveness. Early last month, that task force presented their findings to the City Council, with one of their main recommendations being the need to create a civilian review board to provide additional oversight to the department. Members of the Campaign for Justice, Safety, and Jobs have received confirmation from the Race and Culture Task Force that Fitzgerald opposed their recommendation for a civilian review board. Here I will quote from the letter, I have a copy right here, from the letter Fitzgerald sent to the task force on October 3rd, 2018, 2 months before they moved ahead with the recommendation anyway. Quote, On Monday, September 24, 2018, the City of Fort Worth Task Force on Race and Culture provided a draft recommendation that included the desire for the creation of a Citizens Review Board. The proposed CRB would provide civilian oversight of the Fort Worth Police Department, specifically in regards to disciplinary matters involving sworn police officers. The primary basis for this recommendation is that Fort Worth is the largest city in Texas that does not employ a CRB. The recommendation did not provide any reference for research or data that supports the effectiveness of CRMEs that exist in Texas communities. Continues, this memo is intended to introduce potential alternative recommendations that may facilitate creation of a model that can be effective for all. There is also a belief that officers who engage in misbehavior or illegal activity fail to receive discipline commensurate with their offenses. These perceptions do exist in the community. There is a need to promote education among citizens of what can and cannot be done when a violation of law or policy occurs. As you know, our Civilian Review Board, the only independent civilian oversight entity in the city, has had a contentious relationship with City Hall over the last year and has been needlessly hindered in their ability to conduct investigations. That's now finally being resolved. This is particularly troubling as it flies in the face of public comments to civilian oversight and public accountability that our mayor and city solicitor have made repeatedly during the consent decree's quarterly public meeting in front of Judge Bedard at the federal courthouse. I don't know what more to say. We just find it very troubling that we're going to continue this process with Fitzgerald of undermining what little infrastructure we have for civilian oversight, and by doing so, undermine the consent decree process itself.
Sir. Thank you.
Good morning.
Could you state your name, please?
My name is Gretchen Tome. I'm a resident of Bel Air Edison. Thank you for taking the time to hear us this morning. I want to start by saying that nothing about this process has made me or many others here today feel confident that Joel Fitzgerald is the right choice for our city. From the secrecy and lack of transparency during the hiring process, to the recent revelations of his exaggerated resume, to the fact that he didn't find it important to be sure that he could be here for this public hearing, that this public hearing took place at a time when he was available to be here to hear our comments and concerns. This speaks volumes. We need a commissioner who has integrity, who is open and honest, who is ready to openly and strongly take on a racist department that has been responsible for the brutal murder of Tyrone West, the murder of Freddie Gray, the Gun Trace Task Force, and countless other examples of violations of citizens' rights and humanity. Now the power stands with you, and we are calling on you to hold the line and to stop this process, to go back, open up the candidacy, have a process that is open to the public, that is transparent, where our voices are heard early on, not at the last minute here. Okay. And you are the ones who can do that and who cannot confirm Joel Fitzgerald as police commissioner. Thank you.
I just want to mention that the reason why Mr. Fitzgerald is not here because his son is in surgery from the statement that was made. So, could you state your name, please?
Hello, my name is Beth Hawks. I live in West Baltimore, and I have a business in East Baltimore. And I thank each and every person that's in this room, including the city council members. This place should be standing room only. This room tells you how people don't believe in this. The volume of people in this room speaks volumes. I beg each and every one of you, and I don't beg often, but I'm going to beg you, don't confirm Joel Fitzgerald. He's a disaster, just like D'Souza was. I think that we need to keep Tuggle on board and bring in Barksdale. Tuggle has been so receptive whenever we have an issue. He will call you right back. He listens to our concerns. We've got a big problem in this city with gangs. Everybody wants to blame the cops, but we've got a big problem with gangs. The big, I have an open-air drug market right across the street from my house. The lawless are fearless of the cops. We need change. I own a business, and I'm on the front line of welcoming people into Baltimore. They're terrified to come out of the hotels and walk down the street and eat in the restaurants and go to the shops. Terrified. People think, since we're in Fells Point, we're thriving because of the Pendry. No, they don't come out. They stay inside those four walls. They are absolutely beautiful, but the businesses are dying. Since 2015 to 2018, my business alone is down 49%. I'm hanging on with bloody fingernails, but I am determined to stay in this city. And I'm determined to make more people buy homes in this city and open up businesses and raise their families in this city. But we need each and every one of you to say no to Joel Fitzgerald and get out here into the community and listen to our concerns, because there's a lot of them. My shoulders some days are soaking wet from people stopping me on the street, crying. They can't pay their bills and they're losing their homes, and their sons were murdered, their daughters were murdered, their wives, their husbands. My sister was brutally murdered up front of my house on February 12th by a 16-year-old that lives 356 steps from my home, because I took a tracker and did it. Mosby will not let the police arrest him, even though he has an extensive juvenile record. We have a positive ID, and he's caught on surveillance camera. It was within a second of murdering my sister. Thank God a woman intercepted, and my sister fought back. We need help, and I beg you, please do not confirm Joel Fitzgerald. Thank you for all your hard work. I know you guys got a hard task in front of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next five speakers: Stephanie Hopkins, Melvin Robertson, Jessica Cupper, Brian Seal, and Kim Trueheart. Could you state your name? You can pull that mic down also. Thank you. You can pull it down.
My name is Stephanie Hopkins. Good morning, Mr. President, members of the City Council. We thank you all for coming out and for hearing us. I've been a resident of Baltimore City for 67 years, and I've seen this city at its highest, and now I'm seeing this city at its lowest. I know, I'm having trouble. I'm vertically challenged, I'm sorry. I'm saddened because Baltimore is again in the top 5 of the worst cities, or the most dangerous cities in the United States of America.
Okay.
My question to Mr. Fitzgerald is that he has no background to support him handling the type of crime that exists in this city. He's never dealt with the criminal element of Baltimore City. He doesn't understand the criminal element of Baltimore City. You have a criminal element that does not care, who is not afraid of the police. So how will he handle that? Has he done any research before he decided to come here, or did he come here because there was a nice big salary waiting for him? I don't understand. I've never had a job where I got a raise before I undertook the duties and responsibilities of my job. And I think that is something that the City Council can deal with. We don't even know if he is going to work out. We don't even know if he will be here for 6 months. Those are issues that are raised in my mind. I'm saddened because we have a title on this city called Charm City. But over the years, what I've seen as the demographics have changed is that the charm seems to stop once you get beyond the downtown Inner Harbor area. That troubles me. I drive through this city on a regular basis, and I see all the devastation, North Avenue, West Side, East Side, South Side. I don't care about ethnicity of anybody who comes in to handle the police department here. I want someone who can do the job and who will respect the citizens of this city here in Baltimore. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Could you state your name, sir?
My name is Melvin Robinson, and I'm here just because I want to sit on my front porch. I have a lamp post in front of my house that's seen its share of ricochets. I've been robbed at gunpoint twice. My door was kicked in once, 2 o'clock in the morning. I called the police. They came an hour later and wondered why I didn't talk to them. The only thing I want to do is sit on my front porch, and just like we have health care, preventive health care, we need preventive policing. They have to be visible. I don't see anybody unless there's a 911 call. That's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Cupper, K-U-P-P-E-R. I'm here today to speak against the appointment of Joel Fitzgerald. It's very frustrating to see an ad from the mayor's office touting his many degrees, his budget management, and the staff persons he's supposedly managed. It's also frustrating to hear from Mr. Stokes that Dr. Fitzgerald is not here because of his son's surgery, when yesterday President Council Young stated that he was never slated to be at this one. I live in Northeast Baltimore, where we're fortunate to have representatives in Councilwoman Clark and Councilman Dorsey. I also often have felt lucky to have partnerships with the NED. When I think of the next commissioner, I'm not looking for perfection, but I'm also not looking for corruption. I'm looking for transparency to become more than just a buzzword. I'm looking for integrity, ethical decision-making, and accountability. I'm looking for information on leadership and how the movers and the shakers in the police department will be staffed under this commissioner. That is not with Joel Fitzgerald. I also know that today I speak with privilege, and I have been able to live in the Southeast, North, and Northeast districts. I've seen good and bad, and I've also seen wonderful examples of community engagement combined with accountability in both Majors Richard Worley and Majors Milton Sneed. Since then, we've seen limbo in community engagement decrease in the NED. I think that's much due to lack of accountability and structure from the top. I've lived in Baltimore 16 years. I've been active and engaged every step of the way. But whether someone's been here 50 plus years or one day, we all deserve to go to sleep at night knowing that leadership is working towards change. We don't need someone touting back the blue rallies, jump out boys, or someone being combative from the start when asked basic job questions. When they're asked basic job questions from Councilmen Cohen and Scott, like things about unredacted versions of their resumes and just information about their experience. He told folks to Google him. That was a terrible choice for him, and it's an even worse choice for our city. We deserve better, and I thank you for your time.
My name is Brian Steele, and I'm from Upper Fells Point. This process has been tainted by the lack of transparency in the selection process. We can argue about the merits of Joel Fitzgerald, but we have no idea what the other options were that the mayor considered. We need to deny Joel Fitzgerald and demand that the mayor conduct a transparent process with community involvement, like she promised. It's doable, as Johnny O in Baltimore County has promised to do just that, and their search is going on right now. Beyond the process, there are concerns about Fitzgerald as a candidate. The city council has major problems getting answers from the BPD in normal inquiries. That same stonewalling has happened in the selection process. Why didn't Fitzgerald release his resume when the community asked for it? Why did it have to go to the mayor and be redacted? There are also indications in the transcript that he's simply looking for a raise, which the mayor has promised. What happens when he wants another raise? We need somebody that's here for the long term. Also, Ian Duncan found falsehoods when he Googled Joel Fitzgerald in his resume, and I kept digging this week and found many, many more, which I put on Twitter if you want to go check those out. There's plenty. Those are both in his resume and from some of the officers that the delegation talked to when they went to Fort Worth last month. These are the kinds of people that he would surround himself with. In the end, if Fitzgerald is the best candidate, then he should be our commissioner. But we don't know that. 6 more months of an interim commissioner would do damage, but not as much as having the wrong guy. Vote no on Fitzgerald. Send the message to the mayor that this council won't rubber stamp a sham process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. My name is Kim Trueheart, for those who don't know me. Born and raised in this city and have very high expectations of this body. I read last night a 90-page report, a preliminary report by the Commission to Restore Trust in the Baltimore City Police Department. Now that tells me, reading the background, that there's at least one person in Annapolis who doesn't think this body can do your job, okay? Because they got the governor to approve this commission, okay? To look at our corrupt police department and figure out what the problems are, okay? Truth be told, that's your job, okay? I have lost 5 cousins to gun violence in this daggone city, 5. And I promised you that there would not be a 6th, okay? But that would only happen when you do your job, when you ensure that we have a police department that works for us and not against us. When you ensure that people that we're about to pay $270,000 deserve that kind of money, that they have the skills, the requisite knowledge, experience, and skill level to do what we expect of them. I'm not confident that this gentleman, Dr. Fitzgerald, has that. I appreciate that he's got a business degree, which I do as well, but that ain't what I need him to do. Don't need him to run a business, okay? However much there are people who think that you should be a businessman to go into politics. I tried to do some research on my own, and I appreciate those who took the trip to Texas. I was looking for a bunch of videos online of this dude in community meetings. I ain't seen none. Okay. I want to know what he told his 13-year-old about the Baltimore City Police Department, if he's truly going to move here, and I haven't heard that. I want you to exercise the authority that we, the voters, have given you. Now, I thought there was a body of folks that had subpoena power, and I'm being told that you guys don't have subpoena power. And if there is anything that you need to help you make an informed decision that you have been denied, you better get it. You better figure it out. And if our city solicitor can't help you get what you need to make an informed decision, then fire his butt.
Ms. Trueheart, you're going to wrap it up, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm done. I need you to get all the data you can possibly get. I need you to share as much of it as you can with us. My elected councilman, I haven't heard whether you met with him, and if you did, what he said to you. And then last thing I want is within 30 days of anybody assuming this job, I want to see a written communication strategy and a plan on how they're going to engage with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next 5 is Janet Arnett. Janet Arnett. This it right here. Elizabeth Alex Apache, they don't have a first name. Tamika Whitehurst. And all right, that's the first four. I got to figure out this name on the fifth one. Is it Elizabeth Alex? Could you state your name also? Sure. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You good? Good morning, y'all. Elizabeth Alex with CASA, and also here today with the Campaign for Justice, Safety, and Jobs. I think we're hearing today that people in Baltimore have a lot of questions, and we don't have answers yet. And so we're here today, I'm here today, to urge all of you to use prudence and caution. This decision is too important, and we have not fully vetted this candidate. I think our groups have a lot of questions. We want to know, and you're hearing them today, we want to know, will this commissioner be a true partner with the community? We've made a lot of progress in some areas, right? We are under consent decree. That's not because any police commissioner wanted it. That's because the people of Baltimore wanted it. And we're under consent decree. We're trying to move the ball forward. The people are trying to move the ball forward, but we can't do it alone. We need a police commissioner that will work with us. No, I haven't seen any evidence that Joel Fitzgerald is the right person, but I also haven't had the chance to ask him. And I think that's what the frustration that we're hearing today. People need the chance to speak with this man and to speak with any candidate that is going to take on this important role. We've also heard concerns about what would our new commissioner embrace in terms of civilian oversight, in terms of civilian review board, in terms of civilians participating on the trial board. These are all things that the COTF has made really strong recommendations on. That's based on hundreds and hundreds of conversations with residents of Baltimore. Has this commissioner candidate read any of those recommendations? Has he responded? We haven't had the chance to ask him. So I'm imploring you today, please slow down the process, ensure that there is full participation from the community, and that all of these questions have a chance to be asked by you, but also by us, because the only way we move this city forward is together with a commissioner that has the trust and participation and full, robust participation of all the residents in Baltimore. Thank you for your time today. I recognize we're here on a Saturday morning, and I commend the council for calling this hearing, even without the candidate here. I trust that it will not be the last. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Janet Arnett.
How y'all doing? Happy holidays to you. And my name is Janet Arnett, previous criminal justice graduate. And I'm about Mr. Jack Young and Mr. Brandon Scott. Those two I've seen in action. I've met them a couple of times at Baltimore City Community College. Mr. Brandon has walked through the neighborhood and across to DC with my nephews and my nieces. Dr. DeSouza, I wish I had gave him a chance. I liked his stats, and you can't be so much of a 100% pure police and haven't had a rough spot yourself. For it's just black on black crime and police against people of color. When I put my boots on, I don't know whether to put the heels on or my boots on the ground, so to speak, because I'm in between both of these worlds. And both of the worlds, I'm going to still end up dead. Black on black crime, police, whatever. I'm still going to be dead. But Dr. DeSouza, I like that cabinet he was putting together. And I haven't seen anybody else come in as a new commissioner with a plan of what he's going to do. At least DeSouza had a plan. And I like that first speaker because he also was colonel of Baltimore City Police and my criminal justice professor, Edward Jackson. And from what I know, Jackson is not going to play it. So my question is, when you get your commissioner, will he first continue that stain, that awful stain with Baltimore City Police, because Detective Suter, something crooked about that. That's in the department. Something crooked about that. And you need to get the department straight before you start asking citizens of crime, because we all about that crime in Baltimore City, but all of us is not a resident of Baltimore City who commit those crimes either. And I just want to say, some of those police is hiding behind that in fear of life, imminent danger. For you to shoot somebody 4 times in the head, that's ridiculous. You didn't need that. To choke somebody out by the loose cigarette, you didn't need that. So in order for me to help you, you help me too. Thank you so much. Y'all have a blessed holiday. But again, I'm about Jack Young and Brandon Scott. I think they're going to get something done.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Could you state your name, sir?
Good morning to everyone. My name is Adolf Apache.
Could you spell your first name for me?
ARAF.
A-R?
ARAF.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm a Baltimore resident, Baltimore son. Lived here my whole life with the shortest stint, a stint in the military. I'm also a federal police officer. Here representing myself, not the federal government. And I'm a homeowner in Park Heights neighborhood, so I'm a cop who lives in Park Heights. I commend the commission for doing its due diligence and going to Texas and asking some hard questions. I've seen the report and the information on that. However, you know, there's a good stint of Mr. Fitzgerald's background that has not really been looked at, and that's the 17 years that he spent in Philly. Fort Worth obviously is not, you know, too much similar to Baltimore, but Philly is. And I think that really needs to be dived into. In Philly, he was a regular officer on the street, and how he performed there really needs to be reported to the people here, because the totality of his experience as an officer is what's going to be, you know, implemented in his policies and procedures here. So we can't escape 17 years of an officer's experience and making an honest decision on whether he should be here in Baltimore as a commissioner. In my personal view as an officer, I think that law enforcement in itself is always, or should always be, civilian driven, you know, and law enforcement supported. And that's obviously missing here in Baltimore. It is not civilian driven, okay? You call 911, maybe they'll come, maybe they won't. You say hello to your officers in the morning, they don't say hello to their boss back, right? So, and obviously the youth, you have a definite fractured relationship in the city with the law enforcement and the general distrust, you know, in law enforcement in the city. So the questions that, you know, I believe that you guys should be asking should be geared to more towards that. I looked at the website for Fort Worth, Texas Police Department, and they have a great setup, at least a great policy on civilian policing. They have a COPS program. They have a pastoral program, you know, and a lot of things that we don't have here. Baltimore County even has auxiliary police. We are understaffed in the auxiliary police here. What is his views on all of that? You know, how did he perform with those agencies that's there? Where he's at now, how did he perform with those civilian citizenship agencies connected to the police department there? It's going to prove how he's going to perform here, or if he thinks they're even necessary here, because we don't have them, like I said, in a lot of ways. I'm real curious on his, just to finish up, I'm real curious on his thoughts on working with outside agencies as far as like civilian advocate groups, Black Lives Matter, you know, citizens, the no shoot zones, stuff like that. How is he going, what is his views on that? You know, that's going to kind of say what is his involvement going to be with us as citizens. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tamika Whitehurst.
Yes, good morning.
You can pull a mic down towards your mouth. Thank you.
Again, my name is Tamika Whitehurst. Thank you, Council, for allowing me to speak. Basically, the comments that have already been made are some of the questions that I had regarding the current nominee. I really believe that his nomination should be reviewed again. I'm not really sure if he's the best fit for this particular city. When I look at what's currently going on and how we've lost at least 1,000 people in the last 3 years, we really need someone who is going to have integrity, and that issue has been brought into question about his resume, as well as someone that's going to be able to better engage the community. I think that the commissioner who is selected should be someone that looks at other strategies, i.e. looking at men and women who have come through the penal institutions, organizations that are already on the ground, that need funding, that need assistance, that need attention. So we really want someone to be in place that's really not just listening, but engaging the people. You know, we know the crimes that are going on in the city. I mean, I picked up my niece in one part of the city. I know that was a drug dealer on the corner in front of a liquor store. I left him at 12:20, and when I came back a little before 6 o'clock, he was still there. So we need to make sure that we have police officers, not just the police commissioner, that have integrity and character, and that's going to really do what we're paying them to do. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Honorable members of the committee and...
State your name, sir.
Of course. My name is Tharu Vignaraja.
Thank you.
Honorable members of the committee and Council, Council President Young, good morning. My name again is Tharu Vignaraja. Let me start by thanking you for this opportunity and for taking this entire process so seriously. As a former federal and city prosecutor and in Baltimore and as Deputy Attorney General of Maryland, I worked with 4 different police commissioners over the past decade. I do not envy your decision. It has been nearly a year since Commissioner Davis was fired, and Baltimore is in real trouble. There must be enormous pressure on all of you, given the circumstances, to confirm someone, to confirm anyone who's nominated. But because of this situation, I urge you not to do that, to only confirm if you are sure this is the right person for this job, for this city at this time, because we simply cannot afford to get this wrong. For me, what we have heard and what we have not heard from Commissioner Fitzgerald is deeply troubling. What we have heard is that he was unwilling to share his resume publicly without a public information request. What we've heard is that even after his name was established as the nominee, he still stayed down in Texas for November and December, squandering an opportunity to come up here in a show of good faith, to meet the community and faith leaders, to learn the neighborhoods, to allay some of the concerns you've heard, to get to know the neighborhoods and to get to know the colonels and lieutenants and sergeants and officers whom he intends to lead. What we haven't heard is the sense of urgency this crisis demands. What we haven't heard is a focus on transparency and reform the city needs and that the consent decree requires. What we haven't heard is a commitment to an enforcement strategy that doesn't depend on clearing corners and zero tolerance. Frankly, what we haven't heard is anything resembling a plan for how we address the worst murder surge in Baltimore history. It's been claimed he brought murders from over 300 to less than 70. I have a table that I'm prepared to submit as testimony that shows that this is the reality. In Fort Worth, murder stayed basically the same, around 65 to 70. In the 7 years before that, here are the number of murders in the 2 cities he was police chief: 1, 5, 0, 0, 0, 9, and 9. This is just not the background, record, or resume of a commissioner ready for Baltimore City in 2019. Look, if the council confirms him, I pray Baltimore will embrace him and give him the support that he needs to succeed. I certainly will. And for another town at another time, Commissioner Fitzgerald might be the perfect fit. But for Baltimore at this moment, there is nothing in what we've seen or heard from him that suggests he's prepared to take on the magnitude of the crisis that he would face. I hope I'm wrong, I really do, but I fear I'm right. Thank you again.
Thank you. The next five, Trey Murphy, Trey Murphy, Winnie Gibson, Jordan, I can't pronounce this last name, Rising, Darlene Kane, and Scott Thurston. Thanks, sir.
Here we go again. I've had to use the bathroom for a while, so I'm a little cranky, but this is important. Cool, still got the 3 minutes. So, hi, I'm Trey Murphy with the ACLU of Maryland, as well as the Campaign for Justice, Safety, and Jobs. Just as a side note, what I just gave to Councilman Scott is a statement that the Campaign for Safety, Justice, and Jobs released this morning on the nomination of Joe Fitzgerald. So, can I get my 3 minutes restarted, please? Because I just wanted to say that. So, 4 months ago, the World watched as another video of police brutality involving a Baltimore City police officer went viral. The Deshaun McGregor incident at the hands of a recent Academy graduate confirmed to the world what everyday Baltimoreans have been saying since the death of Freddie Gray. Even without city being under a federal consent decree, little has changed within the Baltimore City Police Department to prevent tragedies such as that from happening. The attack was so severe that the victim was hospitalized. Earlier last year, news reports indicated that the Baltimore City Police Academy graduated cadets who repeatedly failed tests on constitutional policing. This is wholly unacceptable at a time when the federal investigation has shown us what we have already known to be true for years, which is that the Baltimore City Police Department has entered and had a pattern and practice of unconstitutional policing. Baltimore finds itself at a crossroads. This is a crossroads that we will have to get right, and one that will determine the future of public safety for our city. What we have saw from the media, from the City Council research, and from our own research at CJSJ of Joe Fitzgerald is that he is mediocre at best. Let me say that again. He is mediocre at best. With all that has happened in the life of BPD over the past 3 years, we can't afford mediocrity. It's just the truth. We need somebody extraordinary. What we have seen so far is that Chief Fitzgerald may not be the right candidate at this time. So I encourage all of the city council members to ask a nominee the 11 questions that are highlighted in our statement that we released today. In particular, I hope that the city council will ask the nominee 2 questions on my behalf. One is, what will the nominee do to ensure police officers receive effective and basic in-service training? Knowing that we have an issue with constitutional policing, knowing that we have an issue with police brutality and police misconduct, knowing that we have an issue with officers being indicted on corrupt racketeering charges, that is just the latest that we know about. And the second is, according to news reports, Joe Fitzgerald has been police chief. In the past 5 years, he has served as police chief of 3 cities. We all know that Baltimore is on its 4th police chief in just a year. Stability is a problem for this city. It seems like stability is a problem for this nominee. So what?
So can you wrap it up?
So, yep, give me a second, I'll let you respond. So the second question that I would like for folks, for the city council to ask him is, why is he leaving Fort Worth Police Department in such short time? And what is his commitment to staying in Baltimore? It is the Campaign for Justice, Safety, and Jobs organizational coalition stance that this confirmation process should be halted and the timeline should be changed to allow sufficient time for the nominee to address real concerns that Baltimoreans have, and for an accountable and transparent process that is community-centered to actually take place, as the mayor, city solicitor, and council have said numerous times that they want to happen with the next Baltimore City Police Commissioner.
Wrap it up, sir. Thank you.
Good morning and Happy New Year to everyone.
Can you state your name also?
My name is Winnie Gibson Watts.
Thank you.
And I stand here as a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. I've lost 2 loved ones to these streets here in Baltimore. 8 months apart
in the same area of the city. What we need is to stop going outside of our city to get someone to run our police department or any other part of the businesses here. One thing for sure and two things for certain, Joe Fitzgerald is not it. You already know. You read the report. You already know his background. No one has to speak about it anymore. We know that he's not for Baltimore City. One thing that I would like to see done is for a group to get together and our police commissioner be an elected official. Don't say it can't be done, because it can be done. Legislative will allow us to do that. And I would like to see it done. It will take the burden off of our mayor. It will take the burden off of you to have to make a decision of who's going to be the police commissioner and who's not. Fitzgerald, no. Let me say this. I live here in Baltimore. I was a part of your Baltimore City Police Department. I was a sergeant for the Baltimore City Auxiliary Unit. So I know some of the ins and outs of that department across the street. The corruption has been going on for more than 40 years. Everybody know it. But you sweep the dirt under the carpet, but when the dirt rises, the carpet rises up off the floor along with it. And if we don't do something to make a change and a difference in our city, as the citizens here in Baltimore City, nothing is going to transcribe. We got 3 P problems in this city. 3. Want me to name them for you? Our police department, some of our politicians, and our preachers. I don't care who gets mad in here. You can get mad, you can get glad. Because I'm telling you, as a citizen, I am sick and tired of the foolishness. I am sick and tired of when I walk out my door and see 10 cars of police handling a stolen car situation, and 5 of those 10 are sergeants. I looked down the street and I said to my neighbor, wait a minute, it's somebody on the ground and they holding a gun on him. Lo and behold, it was my grandson. I run down the street, out of breath when I get there. I'm asking the officer, why are you holding a gun on him? Well, they called on the radio and said, put him down. Put him down for what? What did he do? She couldn't tell me. So I asked the sergeants on board. They couldn't tell me, told me mind my business. Before I get arrested, I said, well, arrest me, because I'm going to question you, and then I'm going to call 911, and I'm going to ask for another supervisor, even though it's 5 of you standing here. So their response to me was,
Ms.
you
Watts,
can
can
call,
you wrap it up, please?
but another supervisor not going to respond. So I called 911. In less than 10 minutes, another supervisor arrived on the scene. I explained the situation to him. You know what he did? He went and talked to those 5. He said, I want to see you in the district.
Ms. Watts, could you wrap it
As soon
up?
as this is wrapped up. And he went to the paddy wagon. And they asked him, say, sir, what you getting ready to do? He said, I'm getting ready to release our grandson because you had no right to arrest him, number 1. He said, we have all the evidence we need of who stole the car and who was driving it. And it wasn't him. But our police, some of them are so disrespectful to us, it's pitiful. Then our detectives who handle our homicides here in this city, they don't do their job either. They act like they don't care, like we don't love our loved ones who committed the murders, and you don't go after them. So I'm asking you all, Jack, I've known you for many years. Many years. I know quite a few of you, Mary Pat. I know quite a few of you that sit on this board.
I need you to wrap it up. We have other speakers.
And I'm going to wrap it up with this.
Thank you.
Please Choose someone from this city as the leader of this Baltimore City Police Department who knows the ins and outs of this entire city. This is the only way that we are going to make a big difference in this city. Stop going outside of this city to bring people in here and money leaving this city every day.
Thank you. Could you state your name, please?
Good morning. My name is Darlene Kane. I'm here as the voice of Dale Graham. I'm a resident of Baltimore City for 57 years. Hopefully, I see next month my birthday, I'll be 58. I stand here because I feel as though what makes Fitzgerald thinks that he's the right candidate for Baltimore City. We have a lot of problems with police excessive force. And because my son was killed with excessive force, that's why it's so dear to my heart. And we have many mothers in here in Baltimore City who lost their children to Baltimore City Police as well. So I stand on behalf of mothers, fathers, and family members who lost their children to police. I stand here also before mothers and fathers and family who lost their children to gun violence and all the violence in Baltimore City as well. It's not normal for our children to just go to school like nothing has happened. They're now being trained for safety drills, what to do if it's a person with a gun in the school. Also, one of my things I wanted to bring up to you is, has Fitzgerald read the Baltimore City consent decree? And how does he feel about that? Will he be able to work with the Department of Justice as well? Also, not only do we have mothers and fathers in here who lost loved ones, we have a sister in here who fights very hard every Wednesday for her brother. And I just want to say that we have a lot of mothers out here who are boots to the streets, including me. I'm out here on the corners talking to the drug dealers. I'm not afraid, and we're not afraid. There's a whole lot of females, a whole lot of women in here, and we standing up. We standing up to the crime. I'm also here on behalf of CJSJ, Mothers on the Move, Save Survivors Against Violence Everywhere, and No Boundaries. So we are very serious and committed to our communities, and we are tired of the crime. We're tired of the crime. We're tired of losing our little babies, 5 and 7 years old, going to funerals every single week. We just want to know, what can he do to help us? What kind of suggestions can he bring to Baltimore City with the eyes that we see? We see this every day out of our eyes, looking out the windows. We witness hearing people crying about the death of their children. What can he do? How can he come here to soften up our hearts or help us? What can he do? That's my question. What makes him the best candidate? And also, I like to say, I'm also a person who fights for legislations and laws. I'm in Annapolis every time they're up there for police accountability. I'm there when it's for against gun violence as well. And I'm never going to stop fighting for changes in Baltimore City. I'm going to keep on standing for laws as long as I have strength and breath in my body.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. My name is Jordan Reisman. I come before the council today to talk to you, first off, about opposing this Chief Fitzgerald. This gentleman, he's been identified as a fraud, cataclysmic failure in what he's done. He really doesn't have a whole lot to talk about. And then when we talk about Baltimore City as a police department, the agency is a complete failure. I mean, you look at what goes on here daily. I mean, you have 300 plus murders in a city of 600,000 people, and we accept that as status quo. That's acceptable. And the vision here starts with this city council and the mayor. You have an agency this size. Why is it not CLIA accredited? All right, before you even talk about a chief, why do you have an agency that's not CLIA accredited? That's the Commission on the Council of Law Enforcement Accreditation. And what about ISO standards? We talk about quality assurance. That would be International Standards Organization. Like, how about an ISO 9001? This is where it starts, right here, building your agency. Before we even talk about a chief of police, the chief of police needs to set that vision with the council and mayor. So before you even talk about that, you gotta look at the agency. You pull up an organizational map of the department. So you can just Google Baltimore City organizational chart, and then I'll show you everybody like captain and above. You look at half the positions are either acting positions or vacant. I mean, how do you run an agency like that? And then when you start looking at that organizational chart, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You have, and I don't have any police background, I'm a business person, but when I look at an organizational chart, I do a lot of like research into that stuff. You see, okay, you have district detectives that don't even answer to the districts. So at just the, patrol level, how do you have any, synergies going on between officers and detectives? So you start looking at that. These are the things you guys should be asking is, how is this department being run? And to me, that starts with quality assurance and audits. So what I would do if I was on this council, I would go out on a Saturday night and check into a patrol district. And maybe you do this already, I don't know. See how many officers are on duty at that time. And why you have, a staff patrol shift that's supposed to be 25, 30 people, and maybe there's 4 people reporting for duty. And of the 4 reporting for duty, some of them are being held over from a previous shift. So you start looking at things like that, and then you go, gee, no wonder the crime's out of control here. Okay, and then you talk about talent acquisition and retention. I mean, it's not, the problem in the city isn't hiring officers, but that's an issue too. The problem is retention of what you have, because you guys basically just do the groundwork for the counties, because they just lateral all your good people over. So all that's left is the bad apples and people that find their own little niche doing something to the effect of running a police trace task force harassing citizens. So that's what you're left with. So why do you accept that as status quo? Why would anyone want to come into the city and be a police officer when they can go into a county and make more money and not probably have to risk their life as much as they are in the city? So those are the issues. Those are the ground level issues I'd be asking when I'm looking at an agency like this and say, why are we in a failure mode where we have 4 different police chiefs and really no direction going forward? It has to change from the top down. It needs to start here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. We've officially passed morning, so we're now at 12 o'clock. Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Scott Thurston. I live in Mount Vernon. I'm going to do something I'm going to speak off the tongue, but I'm going to start with my poster, which is my nose. I have 3 no's today. I'm going to end with Fitzgerald, as everyone else has today. I'm going to start with why no Hopkins Police Department should be placed into the city so that they now have their own police department and are no longer invested in the police department that we have here that's a failure. I'm going to say no to Barksdale. Everyone wants someone local. No to Barksdale. Why no to Barksdale? Barksdale's been extremely vocal in this community since the Freddie Gray uprising has now disappeared from Twitter because he's the mayor's presumptive pitch hitter when Fitzgerald fails after today. So there's no to Barksdale. Why no to Fitzgerald? Our mayor met Dr. Joel Fitzgerald, as she likes to address him as doctor, at a cocktail party and selected him as our next police commissioner with disregard for everyone else that's in this room and the citizens of this city. Her presumptive police chief is not here to look in the eye. We can't look him in the eye, and rather than have this meeting and look him with the issues that we have for him. We as a city have a police union that also took a trip. We haven't heard a peep from the police union when they went to Fort Worth and what they learned about him. So if the police union in the city is supporting him, we have a reason to be concerned. We have a reason to be concerned because if they're silent, they're supporting him. They have a lot to say about everything. If they're silent on him, they support him. We as a city are sending over 10% of our tax dollars that are paid to city police to Pennsylvania. Ladies and gentlemen, they are an out-of-state occupying force. We as a city are sending nearly 50% of our 70% of the remaining dollars that are paid to city police residents who are residents of the county, who are residents of county outside of the Baltimore city. He wants a Back the Blue parade. Dr. Fitzgerald, if you were here, would you look me in the eye and tell me how a Back the Blue parade is going to help the citizens of Baltimore? Dr. Fitzgerald, will you look me in the eye and tell me how Jump Out Boys are going to help the city of Baltimore? Dr. Fitzgerald, will you look me in the eye and tell me, sir, why over 40 speakers today have spoken against you and one had lukewarm support? So after today, you'll have lots of material that we can Google you on as we've spoken out against you and why you no longer should be considered a candidate as the commissioner for the Baltimore City Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. The next 5 is J. Wendell Gordon. Okay, he coming. All right. I'm gonna run to the restroom. I'm gonna run to the restroom.
Who's the? Do you want me to keep going?
Let me call these names.
Okay.
The next 5, one is J. Wendell Gordon, Kenny. I can't pronounce. Megan. What is these names? Marissa.
Melissa Schroeder.
Marissa Schroeder, Monique Dixon, and Donna Brown.
He's writing the numbers down. That's the first person. As they speak.
Could you please state your name in the mic, please?
Good morning. My name is Donna Brown. I represent the interests of CJSJ. Nope. Forgive me, sir. Good morning. My name is Donna Brown. I represent the interests of CJSJ, No Boundaries Coalition, in making changes. I wanted to address the critical issue that we're under consent decree. And as a number of our other previous representatives spoke, and that came about because of impassioned citizens of this city, because of the state of affairs within already greatly distressed communities, and the impact of policing, over-policing, and how policing has impacted our communities. Through that process, people showed up overwhelmingly to testify and to speak out because of what they experienced in connection to our law enforcement. We've had lawsuits in this city that we've compensated folks for a loss that you'll never be able to replace. We've had people endure experiences in connection with police officers that creates a lifelong trauma that they're still yet fighting to overcome. So with all that we've endured, with all that our citizens continue to endure in connection with our police department, we're not in a place where we can so readily rush to judgment and put someone in just for the sake of posturing and positioning when we really need to do the work of seeking someone who is actively going to serve the interests of this community and truly serve in leadership within that police department, who will be courageous and unwavering and dealing with the issues within that department. The behavior and the character of this man that we're debating about at this moment is not indicative of someone who really deserves this position, not only deserves it, who really is qualified. What he's done as far as addressing police issues within the spaces that he served, his lack of tenure in the spaces that he's served. We're in a space where we need someone who's going to be committed to this process, who's going to be committed to our citizens, who's going to be committed to this consent decree process. Our police department is the funding, our budget is under the state control. But you as our council have the capacity to confirm a decision as our representatives of this city, in the interests of the citizens who have voted for you, that you will represent the interests of us and our communities, what we've endured, and understanding what our experiences are and our expectation of what you're going to do in the interests of us as citizens. We demand a process that is transparent and is engaging and inclusive of community, that we'll have confidence in the decision that is ultimately made and who ends up in this position. I beg you that you meet the standard and the expectation that your citizens, your voting citizens, and I as a voting citizen put in you, and you, my council president, that you don't leave it up to our mayor just to be able to make a carte blanche decision, that you think about the citizens who vote for you. And even the ones who didn't, our expectation is still that you serve us. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Monique Dixon. I serve as the Deputy Director of Policy at the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. I appreciate the opportunity to be before you this morning to share the Legal Defense Fund's views about the process of selecting Dr. Fitzgerald and also about the candidate himself. In my capacity as the Director of Policy, I also have the opportunity to direct our policing reform campaign, which is a national effort in which we work very closely with activists, lawyers, and law enforcement agencies across the country to advance policing reform campaigns. So I come to you with a national perspective, but most importantly, I come to you as a 25-year resident of Baltimore City who's very much invested in the success of our city. This morning, I emailed to each of you a letter detailing our views. I have additional copies of the letter to the extent that some of you have not received it, and I have a copy for the record as well. In sum, based on the process that was used to select Dr. Fitzgerald and based on the record of this candidate, we have asked you and will ask the mayor to withdraw the nomination and to submit new candidates to be considered by the community. We do not believe that he is the best candidate and strongest candidate for the Baltimore City at this time. And, but if the process does move forward, if you decide to move forward with him, we implore you to consider all the questions that were considered by everyone today about his credentials and to present him with those questions during your confirmation hearing. We need a police commissioner who has a proven track record for public safety and effectively reducing crime while at the same time protecting and respecting the rights of citizens, as well as holding police officers accountable. I want to spend a few minutes talking briefly about the process that was used to select the candidate and also just underscore some things that have already been said about this candidate's record. As to the process, in August of 2018, the Legal Defense Fund, as well as over 30 organizations represented by the Campaign for Justice, Safety, and Jobs, sent a letter to the mayor asking her to include residents in her selection process. It was based on the experience of cities such as Seattle, St. Louis, across the country who have done that, who had the option of selecting from a panel of candidates. We think that the same process should happen here, and we encourage you to encourage the mayor to do so. I have very little time. I underscore all of the concerns raised about the candidate's track record or failure to fight crime in his city, his failure to address use of force by officers, and to hold officers accountable in his city. Those are all questions that we have for the candidate. They are detailed again in the letter that we submitted to you, and we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jay Wendell Gordon. I'm an attorney here in downtown Baltimore. And I ask in the beginning and the end of this statement that you all reject Joel Fitzgerald. The first duty of society is justice. On the front lines of justice should be an honest and robust, committed police force that exercises fairness and integrity. Fitzgerald is patently flawed and undeserving of the position of commissioner. Darkness cannot bring out darkness. Only light can do that. Transparency and buy-in is key in this particular situation. We don't need arrogance, we don't need blow-off, and we don't need condescension. We need the light to be shined on Joel Fitzgerald. Until he's ready to come out into the light so we can discover who he actually is, I do not feel that he is the right fit for Baltimore City. Just as we tell our daughters coming out of a relationship that ended abruptly, you can't get over one man by getting under another. The mayor should be mature enough for her wants not to hurt. Reject Joel Fitzgerald as our new police commissioner. He is not right. He is not good for Baltimore City. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Megan Kenny. We've been here before. I don't remember how many months ago it was, but we stood right here and told you that you were about to nominate a man with overwhelming evidence of incompetence, and you ignored it, and you ignored it. 11 of you voted for a man who shot and killed 3 people. You voted for a man who oversaw a district that killed Tyrone West. You voted for a man who had to have known about GTTF. 11 of you did that. You ignored us. You ignored overwhelming evidence. And when you ignore overwhelming evidence as our leadership, you are creating a psychological circus in our brains, because we cannot wrap our heads around the fact that people that we voted for are okay with somebody who shot and killed 3 people, including 1 young man in the back. You did that. Don't do it again. Don't do it again. We've been here before. There is overwhelming evidence of incompetence. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, I thought that was a gavel. All right.
Yeah, sure.
All right, I got a minute 30. So,
Excuse me. We're not going to have disruption?
no,
Thank
he's
you.
with, our voices are together. Our voices are together. So, it's when our leadership ignores evidence and ignores the people's cries and creates a twisted reality in which we now have to operate, it's akin to gaslighting, because you're just like, what the hell is going on here? And the nation's first gaslight is actually a block away, for real. Anyways, don't do it again. Don't do it again. It's in your power. And I think it was William Washington earlier said, you're setting yourself up. If you vote for him, you are setting yourself up. So, can you stop the clock, please? There are people here, clearly, who have a lot to say and should be heard. Listen to us. We've been here before. Don't do it again. The work begins within. Ask yourselves why you let it happen last time and why you won't let it happen again.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Melissa Schober, S-C-H-O-B-E-R. $577.53. That's the amount for every one of the 620,000 residents of this city that this body approved to spend on the BPD in FY09. Coincidentally, that's the year I became a city resident. It is also the year that President Young and Councilwoman Clark sat in my living room after my house was robbed while we were asleep and our 5-month-old daughter was upstairs. Since then, the per capita amount on police has increased $216 to $793 per person for every resident of this city. Since I moved here, you've spent $4,662,877,385 on the police. I feel no safer, and indeed, the city is not safer. I've heard Dr. Fitzgerald and members of this body say that we need funds to protect police, that it's a very dangerous profession. except the 5-year average death rate for police in Maryland is 10.4 per 100,000. Meanwhile, the death rate for black pregnant women in this state is 4 times higher, 40.5 per 100,000. Unfortunately, this body spends less than 1/10 per resident on health as it does on police, a mere $67.60 per person. Meanwhile, you spend $793 on an unconstitutional, scandal-ridden police department. Do better. Perhaps if this body and the mayor spent half as much time on health and schools as it did on considering a mediocre nominee with no evidence to support his positions or ability to oversee a department undergoing the significant and serious challenges that Baltimore faces, our city would be gaining population and not losing it. I implore you to vote no on this nominee, and indeed on all decisions that would reinforce policies that contribute to a dying city over a living one. Please, as you consider the nomination and this year's budget, please think, President Young and other members of this body, about what it was like to look me in the face as I held my 5-month-old daughter when our home had been robbed, and promise me that you were invested in a city of safety. Think about what your votes will do to reinforce that in the future, because so far I've been lied to, and so have 620,000 other people.
Thank you. Our next 5, Anthony Floyd, Coyote, I can't pronounce that last name. Adrian Britt. Who is this? You go ahead, sir, and state your name.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kayode Babatunde Okbakunle, and I'm an international student at the University of Baltimore.
Pull it up, son. We can't. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll just reintroduce myself. I hope I have enough time. Took 20 seconds off.
We'll give you
anyway,
20 seconds.
I'll get to it. I'll reintroduce myself. My name is Kayode Babatunde Okbakunle, and I'm an international student at the University of Baltimore. And I've been living in Baltimore for about 3 years now. Unfortunately, due to family issues, I have to leave. But I felt like I had the need to just give my 2 cents right before I left. The first year, I was like, wow, this is a really beautiful city. And then the second year, I was like, wow. I was like, okay. And then the third year, I attended a consortium with the president of the University of Baltimore, which was the current ex-mayor of Baltimore City, as you very well know him, Kurt L. Schmoke. And he conducted a consortium, and we were talking about ways to reduce the homicide in the city. And I attended it half-heartedly, and I was like, okay, I wanted to come in and listen. And the one factor that I found out was unemployment. Across the board, statistically, black folks in Baltimore City are significantly more unemployed than any other race. And I said the same thing in that consortium. I said, referring to Ice Cube, because I like hip hop a lot, that it's either they don't know, they don't care, or they just don't show. I'm not too familiar with the police commissioner and an individual who can replace the current or soon-to-be police commissioner. That's up to y'all to decide, and as well as the citizens. But it's because of unemployment that people go into houses, people go into cars, people are on the street selling drugs. If they had a means to make an income, to live, 1, 2, invest, and 3, to save, we wouldn't be here talking about 300 murders every year. There's already been 3, or now counting 4, I'm not too sure, I haven't checked yet, murders that have happened in the past 4 days. We keep, well, I say we because I guess I'm part of Baltimore now, but every year it's the same thing. When are we going to get to 300? I joke to myself, like, I'm going better than 2 and 12 to get to 300. Like, it's ridiculous. It's very ridiculous. What the youth need and what black folks need is unemployment. There is an agency called the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. That needs to be addressed on a very, very serious level. And the police, this is corruption and absolute lack of transparency across the board. I don't even want to go into particulars, but it's lack of transparency and accountability across the board. And last but not least, I just want to say, y'all, it's a very hard job that you guys are doing. I know you're human beings. At the end of the day, there's a 10% margin of error that we have to acknowledge that these are folks, very brave folks that get into office and try their very best with their God-given talent and expertise to try and make the city progress as a whole. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is Anthony Floyd Jr. here? Mr. Floyd.
Hello, everyone. Hello. To the honorable city councilman and all the elected officials and very important people in Baltimore, and mostly to the residents and the citizenry in Baltimore. My name is Anthony Floyd Jr. I am uniquely qualified to talk about, not speculate, about a gentleman who is exemplary in law enforcement because I worked with him. I'm Anthony Floyd Jr. I'm retired Philadelphia Police Commander. I'm former Chief of Police of the Lincoln University, the oldest historical black college in the United States, degree-bearing black college in the United States. 31 years of law enforcement, from police officer to police executive. Let me tell you about Joel Fitzgerald. He doesn't know I'm here. I'm sorry, I tore my jacket because I drove real fast from Middletown, Delaware to get down. I just happened to see it in the Baltimore Sun this morning. I said, I better get down there, you know. But let me tell you about Joel Fitzgerald. Many of you don't know who he is. He wasn't just a police officer in the fourth largest municipal police department in the United States. When we retired, we had 7,200 sworn police personnel and over 900 civilian employees in the Philadelphia Police Department. He was a commander of, when I retired, he was a commander of the Narcotics Strike Force, which contained over 500 uniformed officers in narcotics, of a bureau of over 1,200 narcotics officers, plainclothes, special ops, and everything. He knows about the #1 problem in any major city in the United States is drugs. Because when you have guns, there's a direct connection between drugs and what? Guns. So he is profoundly qualified as it relates to narcotics. I wasn't a narcotics guy. I was a community policing guy. All right? He also was trained in law enforcement on a national level, one of the most highly respected police commissioners in the country, Commissioner Sylvester Johnson. I'm an ordained minister. Commissioner Johnson was a Muslim, a Nation of Islam. And he trained us, the command staff. You better go out and reach the public. He demanded that. We were taught under Commissioner Sylvester Johnson that. So when we're talking about speculation of whether or not he's going to be communicative, open door with the community, at the ground level, he was trained by the best to do just that. And so I'm honored.
Wrap it up, sir.
I just want to say this. I love Baltimore. Baltimore is a city of champions. How do I know I'm from Philadelphia? You guys had the great Dunbar High School.
Sir, can you wrap it up? Need to wrap it up.
And I believe that if you select Commissioner Fitzgerald as your next commissioner, there will be open gateway of wonderful dialogue and proactive action in the community. Thank you so much. God bless.
Good afternoon. I'd first like to thank the city council members that.
Can you step to the mic, Lord, and state your name, please?
Adina Britt. I live in the Northeast District of the city. I'd like to first thank the delegation that went down to Fort Worth to conduct all the interviews. And after reading the entire 216-page report of interviews conducted in Fort Worth, I was struck by the conflicted aspects of the answers of the panelists that were provided. They seem to paint a picture. They seem to paint a picture that Chief Fitzgerald may be in over his head.
Can you speak up a little louder, please?
That they seem to paint a picture that Chief Fitzgerald may be in over his head at his current position. Fort Worth was painted in a way as though they have major racial tensions, yet does not suffer from the diverse types of issues that Baltimore currently faces. Chief Fitzgerald was repeatedly referred to as too thin-skinned, has issues with budgeting, an adequately staffed police force, and not one person who was asked could cite a specific policy that was implemented to deal with the racism and inequality in that city, neither within his ranks, their policing, or the city. On page 32 of the report, they referenced the use of jump out boys to address the drug activity, and that is particularly concerning, as it would be a regression going backwards in Baltimore City Police Department tactics that have already been proven biased and ineffective. It is no more than a mass incarceration tactic. Pages 60 to 63 point out a racist and biased police union, which would be a situation he would not escape by coming to Baltimore. Police unions that operate under and within a code of silent silo is what breeds corruption, yet these practices continue in both cities. Pages 95 through 99, Chief Fitzgerald is described as firing an officer accused of killing an unarmed man, yet this officer was not indicted. Baltimore already has rampant problem that permeates Baltimore City Police Department, State's Attorney's Office, and an unwillingness to hold corrupted officers accountable. Chief Fitzgerald seems as though he would allow Baltimore to remain in a status quo where we actually require major change. I found nothing in the report where he made efforts to revamp or change the internal affairs practices or processes of dealing with corrupted officers. I'm also suspect of the repeated use of the buzzword transparency, as it implies just the opposite where police departments are concerned, in my opinion. I couldn't help but feel that Fort Worth is driving him out with their undercurrent of racism within their ranks, and his perceived homesickness for the East Coast and his need for a raise, which he's been denied, hardly seem like reasons to hire him. This is such an important public position in Baltimore, and our city needs real leadership and change. Finally, pages 194 to 213 were simply alarming to me, because as my family and I have personally had our own experience with corrupted police officers, an ineffective and secretive internal affairs unit, and a non-responsive of corruption complaint, and a non-responsive corruption compliant state's attorney's office to the point of having to file a lawsuit, I cannot fathom how Chief Fitzgerald would remedy any of the ills Baltimore currently suffers from without there being further collateral damage to our citizens' expense. Mayor Pugh should consider further search for a better candidate. Baltimore deserves better.
Thank you. And Antonio Saverdra, if I'm saying that correct. The next person will be Akin Amin. After that last two persons, we're going to recess for a half an hour. So, is Antonio? Yes, sir. Come on up, sir.
Buenas tardes. I'm gonna say in Spanish.
Say your name.
Can I do it in Spanish?
Yeah.
It's fine.
Soy Antonino Saavedra. Represento a la organización Casa. Mi pregunta es para ustedes, señores. Sabemos que van a elegir al señor Joe Figueroa. Él trae su récord del pasado en Texas y la ciudad de Allentown, Pensilvania. Queremos saber si en la ciudad de Baltimore va a cooperar con ICE.
Sir, could you hold up? Okay. Yeah, he'll be able to start back over.
Okay. Si la policía de la ciudad de...
Un momento.
Oh, she ain't go.
There we go. He got
it. Could you start them over?
Repito.
Okay, you can go ahead and start over. Thank you.
Okay. En la ciudad de Baltimore, Maryland, si va a cooperar con ICE.
I'm worried about whether the city of Baltimore will cooperate with ICE,
O seguirá siendo como lo está haciendo hasta ahorita.
or if we will continue as we are now.
La última pregunta de nosotros es si el señor Joe Figueroa trae, ¿cuál es su plataforma de él hacia nosotros los latinos?
We have a lot of questions about what Mr. Joel Fitzgerald's position will be in relation to the Latino community.
Porque nosotros nos despertamos días a días preocupando qué es lo que va a pasar con nuestra comunidad latina.
Because we wake up every day worried about our families and our children, and we're worried about what would happen if he comes here.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Happy New Year to the councilman. I'm Haki Ami. I'm a resident of the 8th District. To my council member there, thank you. I'm born and raised in Baltimore. I served in the United States Navy in the military as well. Currently, I am a 14-year veteran in the Baltimore City Fire Department, though my views do not reflect the opinions of the City Fire Department. But in 2012, I lost my cousin in the streets of Baltimore, the 1500 block of McKean. His name was Brandon Sproul, and he was a Walbrook basketball player, All-American, and there's no resolve to that. As well as my stepmother was a Baltimore City police officer for 35 years. And I say that in the context of what I've seen in the streets of Baltimore, and I believe affirmatively that for the police commissioner, we need someone that actually has some experience in the streets of Baltimore. There's been several experiences that I've seen, not just within my particular department, but in law enforcement, that I believe that there are certain things that people need to know that's going on in the streets that you're not going to get it from the outside. And I firmly believe, for instance, even with the police as well as fire and other agencies, when we have individuals that are actually from here, we can solve much of the crime as well as other issues because they know certain things that other people from the outside do not know. So that's my only position that I have, and so I say thank you.
Thank you, and this committee will recess until 1 p.m. Thank you. Good afternoon. We are reconvening the January 5th, 2019 hearing for Executive Appointments Committee. We have two persons that testified, Diane Corbett and Allie Bushing. Diane Corbett.
I'm saying only one person that's testified is from Oregon.
Right, from Delaware.
Right.
Okay. Allie, Miss Allie, could you state your name, please? Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Hi, my name is Allie Bushing. I'm a resident of the 14th District.
louder?
Oh, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Allie Bushing. I'm a resident of the 14th District. Thank you all, members of the committee and the council, for being here and sticking it out to the bitter end on a long Saturday. I just wanted to reiterate a lot of the points that I'm sure have already been made today. I've been a resident of Baltimore for about 5 years now, and what I love most about this city is how engaged its communities are. So I really want to make sure that I am adding my voice and pushing for as much community participation and transparency in this really important decision that we have to make in appointing a new police commissioner. It's very important to me that everyone in my community feels safe. And clearly, by the process that we're going through in the consent decree and the voices that I've been hearing in my community and throughout the city, that's not the case. And I've been concerned about some of the information that's been coming out about Acting Commissioner Fitzgerald's record in having disproportionate stops and searches for people of color, on using jump out boys and teams that have been proven to be ineffective and just exacerbate the over incarceration of people of color in the city. And I think that that's a real issue of trust that we need to rebuild. And I want to make sure that the police commissioner that we are appointing has a deep commitment to racial equity in our cities and to reducing overcriminalization in our cities and tackling the biggest issues of safety for all of our communities. So thank you all for being here and for taking the time to hear community input. I'm really hoping that there will be robust discussion and more public hearings once the Acting Commissioner Fitzgerald can come out and be in our communities in Baltimore, and he'll get to hear from the people of our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Corbett, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year's. My concern with the new police commissioner, I would like to have them know the city and have a planned strategy for all the violence. And one suggestion is that we work not only
Diane,
with
can you talk into the mic and pull it down a little
yes,
bit?
not only with the children, but also with the whole family. If we tackle that, I think you'll see the decrease in violence in Baltimore City, working with the whole family, and also with the police department. Like, I know they used to have officer friendly going to the schools and stuff, or if we can't have that, maybe we can have one officer per school, you know, at elementary school to get to know the children and everything like that. And my concern is also with Dr. Fitzgerald. I heard some things about his resume. Do anybody know anything about that? What's in the resume that might be concerned to Baltimore City residents? Because to me, I'm tired of us had to pay for them when they leave, their service pay. And it harms the citizens because we are still paying for their salary and stuff when they are no longer here. That affects Baltimore City residents. So I would like to have a commissioner that we won't have to go back and rehire somebody else. Just one that, you know, we know that's going to do the job, have a plan, and work with the citizens in that plan of solving crime. Not just asking us when a crime happened, but before a crime happened, what do you know in your area? You know, because there are people in the area that really know their area, their particular area, they know what's going on. So to have that connection with residents in the area.
Thank you. Kobe Little. Kobe Little. I know, he was talking. President NAACP in Baltimore.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Kobe Little. I'm the president of the Baltimore NAACP. It's good to see former president of this body here. Hello?
Kobe, can you pull a mic up?
Last time we were together, I didn't have this hair.
Thank you.
So on behalf of the Mr. President, it's good to see you as well. On behalf of the NAACP, I'd just like to offer this thought to the council and to this committee. It is unfortunate that the candidate is not here to be able to.
Well, his son was sick. That's the reason why he's not here.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stokes?
His son is having surgery in Texas.
We understand. It's still unfortunate that he can't be here.
His son.
Yeah. And in light of the fact that he can't be here today, we do think it's important that there is another opportunity for him to hear from the people and also to respond to the people. The critical point that we'd like to raise today is that we think it's important that as you consider this appointment, that you get some clarity on what it is that this candidate would do differently from what's already been done. We need a police chief who has a full understanding of the direct correlation between white supremacy and slavery and the over-policing of black communities, and who is equipped to speak to that dynamic so that we can get different results. We'd also like to hear a clear articulation from this candidate as to what the merits are of the consent decree and what the vision is for implementing the consent decree. We also like to hear from this candidate what his position is on the Civilian Review Board and how the police department will interact with the Civilian Review Board. We'd like to hear from this candidate his vision for eliminating violence in this city and ensuring that the police department isn't one of the institutions in this city that propels violence. Thank you.
Thank you. This committee will reconvene till 3 p.m. and recess at 3 p.m. and with our last hour at 4, we'll be closing it out. Thank you. Sure, Mr. Moore.
I wasn't sure I was going to say anything because I haven't had a chance to meet Dr. Fitzgerald.
Could you put
I just wanted to offer a couple of quick thoughts.
Ralph, Mr. Moore, could you state your name?
What?
State your name, please.
My name is Ralph Moore. I'm a citizen of Charles Village, a resident of the 14th Councilmatic District. A couple of quick thoughts, and then I'll be seated. One is, when I heard the news of Mr. Fitzgerald's son, I thought one of the things we could do as a whole city was to pray for his son. And so I posted that on Facebook. That's something we can all do, irrespective of whether you like him, whether you want him, whatever. You know, let's look at the child and pray for his success in his operation. So some people responded to that, but we've got to find things that we can do and hold harmless the children. The second thing is that with the work I've been doing with young people, each year we've asked children to turn in their toy guns. When I was a kid, you got toy cigarettes, right? You got either candy cigarettes or toy cigarettes. The candy cigarettes you could chew on until, and they came in little Lucky Strikes boxes. And the toy cigarette set blew powder out of them. But they were teaching children how to smoke for when they got older. And toy guns are the same concept, that they're teaching children how to play with guns. There's a recent posting on Facebook of a store in Philadelphia where the folks in the neighborhood stopped the store merchant from having any customers because they were selling toy guns that had clips in them. And they looked just like a real gun, except they had the orange tip. You know, that's supposed to be the answer, that kids can color in with a magic marker or break off. But that puts these kids in danger. It puts lots of people in danger. We don't need to sell toy guns. And that's what I'd like you all to think about, how you can stop that in this town. because there's a million things for kids to play with other than toy guns. And that might be a long-term solution, but let's get them out of the habit of feeling that that's something that they ought to be acculturated to playing with. Maybe there's a law or a resolution you can pass, but I would ask officially that you work on that, if you would, please. And then finally, I think this process has made it very complicated. You know, the secrecy, the didacting, all of that stuff has made people more upset and angry. And we want the truth in this town. We don't want to be manipulated. We don't want to be lied to. We don't want to be left out. We want this to be, because this is a very important issue. This is the most important thing happening in this town right now, the relationship between the police and the community. So we have to get this right. We have to be open, and we have to be honest about it. I'm sitting down, but I keep thinking about when Mikhail Gorbachev came to the Soviet Union. Remember, he introduced two concepts, glasnost and perestroika. Remember that? And one meant, well, some of you may not, but one meant openness, right? And one meant restructuring, right? And that's a lesson for us here, I think. I think we need openness in what all we do, dealing with this and other things. The citizens need it, the health of our city needs it, and restructuring. Clearly, the way the Baltimore City Police Department is operating now needs some serious restructuring. Thank you.
Thank you. We will recess until. Is there any more public testimony? Anybody want to testify? If not, we'll recess at 3 p.m. till 3 p.m. We are reconvened the January 5th hearing for the Executive Appointments Committee. We have three persons to testify in this order. Marcus Dent, Dante Ward, in that order, and Angie Winder. Mr. Dent, can you step up to the podium? What number is that? Could you state your name also?
Marcus Dent. Afternoon, committee. I appreciate you bringing everybody out to do that testimony. On behalf of the community, we have several questions regarding Dr. Fitzgerald, one of which is his potential ability to really understand Baltimore City streets, him not being from Baltimore City. In addition to that, we need a commissioner that's going to be here for the entire term. From my understanding, he has a propensity not to finish out his terms. So we want to make sure the person that is here in Baltimore City will be here for the duration of the time. Over the last 2 to 3 years, we've had several different commissioners for a bevy of different reasons. We need someone that's going to be committed to us on a daily basis, boots on the ground. Get your hands dirty. Get your hands dirty. You know, we want you to come out of your seats and come down to the streets. And at the end of the day, that's the only way that I feel we're going to have a fully transparent police department. That's the only way that I feel that we're going to have a commissioner that really knows what's going on a day-to-day basis. Because a lot of times they don't. Because if you sit in your office, you're not going to know what's going on day-to-day. We've had 300 murders year after year after year for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That has to stop. That has to stop. And we can't have someone from outside come in and try to tell us how to stop that. They have no idea what our systemic problems are. They don't have any idea the mental health issues that are going on with a lot of folks that are committing these crimes, you know? So again, I'm not sure that Dr. Fitzgerald will be able to come in and properly police, especially coming from Texas, where from my account, they're not getting 300 murders a year. So I don't know if he's gonna be able to deal with that the way we need him to bring that reduction down, to bring that transparency up. And those are a lot of things that I want to make sure that as a committee, you guys take into consideration moving forward, that Baltimore City needs, in my opinion, a Baltimore person to bring us back. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Have a good day.
Thank you. I just want to mention President Young is not. He was called away over to the Baltimore to speak for Peter Auchincloss, a civic leader who recently passed away. He hopes to return for the remainder of today's hearing. Our next speaker is Dante Ward.
Good afternoon, thank you.
Could you state your name, sir?
Say it again.
State your name.
My name is Dante Ward. I did 8.5 years in Baltimore City Housing Code Enforcement under Eric Booker. I also, right now, I work for Baltimore City Schools. What I do for Baltimore City Schools, I basically do all the recesses. I do basically PGC, which is peer group connections, where we do circles and restorative practices. Basically, my view of the situation of bringing in an outside, entity to our city at this time, when a time of need that I feel like there are quality men and women of all color that are inside the Baltimore City Police Department that are able to not only, like as Marcus Dent said, to have boots on the ground. Once I have boots on the ground, it's organic. It's not a learning process. Most of the time, and even with children, when you have learning process, there's a big learning curve. So you're talking about, we already have 300 murders. We're gonna almost be at a 300 again because that learning curve of certain parts of East Baltimore, you may not know, certain parts of West Baltimore, South Baltimore, certain parts that needs to be policed with an aggressive approach versus a hands-off approach. Hands-off approach, not looking at statistically, looking at paperwork and saying, hey, this place here or this neighborhood here is a high reduction, is a high crime area or a high drug or open air drug market. They need to see everything he needs to see everything that we see. And I think that any man or woman that's here, that's already in the Baltimore City Police Department, it should have been an open process for applications, not let's make a deal. You look like the right person for the job, so we're gonna get you. No. Let everyone come out and interview for that position. And then let's get everything out in the wash before a year from now, there's something wrong with this commissioner. And we're at the same process again with an interim commissioner. I thank you guys for my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Angie Winder.
Good afternoon.
Put a mic down. Thank you.
Good afternoon, councils. Thank you so much for allowing this public hearing. First of all, it's very good to have transparency. My name is Angie Winder. I'm a community advocate. I am not so much in favor of the commissioner being Commissioner Fitzgerald. I do believe that we do need community involvement. And we do need these, more so not even just a meet and greet, but the hearing and the voice from the community. So one, thank you for this, but I do believe that we need to go out into the communities and not just having something here at City Hall. As I was reading over articles in the past, one of the things that just stood out to me was a comment that was put out from someone who worked with him that says that he did not have any community policing practices. That is very important, to have community practices and to be experienced. With 309 homicides that we've had last year and 300 in the last few years, we do need someone boots on the ground, and we do need community involvement. I also have concerns that there was a roundtable of community leaders that were selected. I don't know if it was by the council, but I am recommending that we do please, as involved as I am, I don't know how the 9 were selected. And again, article in Baltimore Sun says there were 9 community leaders that were going to be at this roundtable. How were they selected? Why were they the only ones selected? And why aren't there more involved into this? I do believe also, again, another recommendation is just making sure that we actually listen to what everyone is saying and not let it just be just a testimony or testifying and not really listening to everyone. I've done a poll. I know that everyone that have come today are against it. What are you going to do knowing that majority are against having this commissioner? So please just make sure that we listen to all of our constituents. And again, thank you for your time. If there are any opportunities for additional people to be at that round table other than the 9 that were selected that I still don't know, I am very much open to being a part of that round table. I just want to have involvement to sit with the commissioner and be involved and to ask those questions and not letting it be a third party. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Irvin.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for allowing me to speak. Please excuse how I'm dressed because I literally just came back in town off of the road, jumped out of a tractor trailer, but I definitely wanted to be
You're fine,
here.
sir. Just state your name for us. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Christopher Irvin. I live in Northwest Baltimore. I'm the founding and principal of the Lazarus Right as a reentry program here in the city, and small business operator. I just prepared a few remarks. I would ask you to reject the nomination of Joel Fitzgerald for Baltimore City Commissioner, and I would do so based on the following. The chief is offered to Baltimore City residents as the chief of Fort Worth, Texas, which is a city of well over 800,000 residents. Fort Worth, Texas is a city of well over 800,000, but experienced only 70 homicides thus far in 2018. Unfortunately, the 70 homicides is an exponential increase over what they were accustomed to, and this is the highest number in decades, yes, while on his watch. And I would just read an excerpt from one of the journalists in Fort Worth. It says, police, Fort Worth saw 70 homicides in 2017, highest number in years. Fort Worth has seen a 40% increase in homicides since 2014 alone. The author is Lauren Zakalik, Z-A-K-A-L-I-K, published January 3rd of 2018. She goes on to say, it was a violent year in Fort Worth. According to numbers provided by the Fort Worth Police Department's homicide unit, 70 people died at the hands of someone else in 2017. Quote, we had so much time, more time we could have spent with her. I'm sorry, this goes into someone else's comments. You can scratch that. The department also is budgeted to employ 1,664 officers. That's 1,664 officers. It currently employs 1,670, which means that they are currently overstaffed. They experienced their highest homicides in decades while being overstaffed. And this is the most attractive destination in the state for law enforcement officers based on their pay and benefits package. This is documented. Most officers want to work in Fort Worth, which is also a very different dynamic from what we currently have here in Baltimore. Waiting to see how or if he can manage this vast difference of departments is an experiment that our city cannot and should not attempt to handle at this time. My thoughts and prayers are with the chief and his family as they deal with the condition of his son. But my thoughts and prayers are also with the over 300 families who have lost a loved one right here in Baltimore City. Let us not forget the shootings and other violent crimes that did not result in death. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you for receiving me in the condition that I'm in.
Thank you, Mr. Irvin. Are there any more speakers? If not, we will recess this hearing until 3:45 p.m. We are reconvening the January 5th, 2019 hearing for the Executive Appointments Committee. There are no more people signed up to testify. The hearing is adjourned. We will announce a date and time as soon as possible to reschedule the Chief Fitzgerald to come before the committee. Thank you, and all those attending this hearing, please check the area around your seat and make certain that you have everything that you brought with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.